World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to World Pro Racing. They do say that two's company, but three's certainly a crowd here this week. Obviously, we've had quite a lot of action. The Nightmaster 2, which saw Dan Ginchard's rack up another successive victory, first taking the Rainmaster title. We had the second round of the USF 2000 series at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but we're back for the 2 hours casual race GT3 Assetto Corsa Competizione at none other than Mount Panorama in New South Wales. Alex Goldschmidt and Kieran McGinley joining you this evening. Good evening, Kieran. How are you?
Good evening, Alex, and good evening, everyone watching along at home. I'm very well, looking forward to what possibly will be one of my favourite tracks that we've been to so far. Love this track. It's a really challenging mix of open circuit and throw in a bit of temporary closed circuits there, especially going up through the cutting, up through the mountain, and then going down through the dipper. It's going to be a fantastic event. The only problem is it's a very, very narrow track, all things considered, and keeping it clean for 2 hours is going to be a real challenge for these drivers.
Yes, indeed. Firstly, as always, we can't thank enough our sponsors here on World Pro Racing: Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. A warm welcome to everyone watching on the World Pro Racing relevant streams such as Facebook Live, YouTube and Twitch. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button for this video and also hit the subscription button and the notification bell. A warm welcome to all our viewers over in Malta at TVM Sport, motorsport.tv, and of course our friends over at eSports Television. So a big challenge tonight for the drivers, Kieran. According to the registered entry list, we're going to have around about 35 GT3 cars, obviously at a circuit that hosts normally, before COVID-19 hit, the Liqui Moly 12 hours of Bathurst. These drivers are going to go through absolute hell, especially if you get it wrong through turn 1, appropriately named as Hell Corner.
Yeah, once you get past Hell Corner, you've got the rest of the circuit to follow on as well. So, yeah, for 2 hours round here, it's a demanding circuit, very tricky to make an overtake happen as well. And if you are impatient and try and force a move, you are going to be finding that wall somewhere out on this circuit. It's a beautiful set of challenges, close walls, and making sure you hit every single apex millimetrically perfect to get the most out of this circuit. It's probably why it's one of my favourite tracks to come to. It's probably why it's one of the tracks I put the most time into if I ever get behind a sim racing wheel. There's something about Mount Panorama that people just can't turn down racing.
Yeah, some infamous incidents that have happened here. Fabian Coulthard's flip at the chase quite a few years ago, where Neil Compton, the lead commentator for Repco Supercars, as they're now known, called it as Jason Barguana and then realised it was Fabian Coulthard. Then Garth Tander, Scott McLaughlin, and I think it was Jamie Whincup having the redress going through the end of the chase. But before we head to our friends over at Race Control at World Pro Racing HQ, the format for tonight: 15-minute free practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and then a 2-hour race, which will be on a 5-time time scale. So we'll start at midday and finish at around about 10 o'clock at night. 2 mandatory pit stops are required. Refueling is mandatory. But without further ado, before we go trackside, let's head over to Race Control and have a quick catch up with our race director, Adrian Figallo, as always, and hopefully very shortly. There it is. Good evening to our team over at the Maltese HQ, and very good evening to Adrian Figallo.
Good evening to you guys. Thanks for the introduction. And,
yeah, I think tonight's going to be a very interesting one. We've spoken numerous times, you and I, Adrian. I mean, Mount Panorama, a very, very fearsome track, just over 6.2 kilometres. Track limits are going to be very much a case in point, but also if we have cars going side by side towards the top part of the circuit, it is something that can catch the drivers out tonight. And obviously yourself and our race steward, George Muscat, will be keeping a keen eye on proceedings.
yeah, exactly. This track is obviously enough, as you're saying. It's a very tricky track, especially for the drivers. They need obviously to pay attention, something that was stressed out during the briefing also. As always, we'll be on the lookout for having clean driving on track and obviously giving the necessary penalties if need be to the drivers at fault. But I agree with you that I think we might have some particular incidents today here at Mount Panorama.
Well, Adrian, we want to wish you and our race steward, George Muscat, all the very best of a good evening. And we'll catch up with you later on during the broadcast.
Thank you.
So now free practice underway and 35 or so drivers. Now, the lap record held in a GT3 car, which was actually discussed by myself and Kieran before we went live this evening, is held, and it was back in February 2016, the 7th of February, and it's in a car that is not actually going to be on this grid. It is the McLaren 650S GT3. New Zealand's Shane van Gisbergen, a former Repco Supercars champion in his own right, set that lap time, and Dean Riley in the number 1 Mercedes AMG GT3. He's running in the Evo variation, which has the slimmer front headlights. He is currently on a 2-minute 0.927. Now, Kieran, free practice will give us an indication as to what is going to happen later on in qualifying, but qualifying is going to be rather important tonight.
It is, and this part of the circuit, when you're heading on towards the chase, as Dean Riley is right about now, it looks pretty wide here at the moment, and this is probably the widest part of the circuit. But when you're going up, especially past Quarry Bend through the cutting, as you make your way and ascend up the mountain through Griffin's Mountain, Reed Park, you'll find that the track starts to narrow down quite a lot. And you can see Dean Riley finding the grass there and finding the wall, comes across the line and is only 4/10 off of his best lap so far. So that just tells you how good lap could have been. Although it's got some long straights here, they are narrow straights, and again, you've got that narrow nature of the circuit at the top of the mountain. So qualifying is going to be critical simply because, in terms of overtaking opportunities, there aren't many around this circuit.
Very true, as we see a regular here on World Pro Racing, Sheldon Muscat in the number 14. He's running in the Lexus, not in his current, his normal preferred machinery of the Mercedes AMG GT3's 3.3 tenths off of Riley. Harry Spears with Sidemax Motorworks normally runs with Fordzilla as well. He's just under half a second off. Then you've got the likes of Florent Lacour, who we're with in the 44 Aston Martin. Nat Thomas in the number 7 Audi. Chris Pinchbeck from SimSport Racing in the number 43 Aston Martin. Postolakis in the number 2 Lexus. Then we've got Ryler and Boydchev rounding out the top 10. But it's looking rather close. You can just see how close it can get going through the dipper, as Florent Lacour able to get past the Ferrari that was in the way there. And now we'll go through the left-hander, the very tight left-hander here at Forest Elbow, which is on turns 17, 18 and 19.
Yeah, it's a really, really complex set of corners there, especially as you went through the dipper there. You saw there really is only one line there, one line and only one line through there. So trying to make an overtake happen through there and then in towards Forest Elbow, well, you're going to have to be a brave driver. If brave is the right word, you might have to substitute it for a more damning word. But in any case, overtaking here is tricky. Qualifying, you're going to need to put together that lap time to try and get the best out of the car, get the best out of you. And at this track, of course, we're seeing the practice times just over 2 minutes here. So you got to think you've got to have an out lap, which is going to be, of course, more than that. Then you've got to have the lap itself. Easily, that's going to take you 4 to 5 minutes just to complete a lap around this circuit. So trying to make sure that you get the right amount of space out there is going to be crucial for these drivers up and coming.
Yeah, Harry Spears has a bit of a moment, catches the curb coming out of turn 22. That's the exit of the chase. He's in a very, very resplendent light turquoise blue McLaren 720S GT3, the number 285, currently running at the top 3 as he comes through Murray's Corner and onto the main straightaway. He'll have lost a little bit of time, but you will see that quite a lot of drivers, top 10 covered by just over 1.6 seconds. Here's Ivalo Boychev in the 64. About to cross the line very, very shortly, rounding out the top 11 at the minute. JP Sleater in the YouTube chat has already said to Nat Thomas, you better do good or I won't be happy. And then we then get a response saying, poor Nat, so much pressure.
Yeah, well, what we don't want is an unhappy JP Sleater, that is for sure. We don't want that at all. But there is Evangelos Apostolakis making his way now in the fidget spinner Lexus, in the number 2 car, making his way now all the way down towards Murray's Corner and completing this lap. Currently 8th fastest in this practice session so far, 1.2 seconds off of Dean Riley's fastest lap time so far. Can he make an improvement? No, he can't, but only just about a tenth, so showing that he's consistently in that 8th fastest lap time.
Yep, so the top 15, that's got Jordan Burrows down in 15th position, covered by just over 3 seconds, but with just over 5 minutes and 50 seconds still to go. There's Wojciech going up through into Reed Park and now in towards Frog Hollow and then Sulman Park before the run through McPhillamy and then going down into Skyline. And now this is where things get really tough and technical. Your second, third gear, you're modulating the brake, you're modulating the throttle through into the dipper. Yellow flags actually heading through the exit of the dipper, and there is an Aston Martin that has yeeted it into the barriers on the right hand side there, and Wojciech decides to abort that lap.
Yeah, I think he actually clipped the wall there as well on entry in towards going down in towards Forest Elbow anyway, so I think he would have abandoned the lap time regardless. But yeah, you don't want to see a yellow flag in that section. You never know what you're going to find going down in through the dipper and then in towards Forest Elbow. The last thing you want is a car facing the wrong way, or even worse, facing at a 90-degree angle and blocking the track. That's all it takes for a little bit of carnage to take place down there. Luckily, the track is so narrow that if you do make a mistake, it's more than likely you're going to hit the wall at some point rather than spin yourself onto the track. Riding on board then with Dean Riley as he takes us on a flying lap here of Mount Panorama and in towards Hell Corner. And it is the folly of man if you get that corner wrong as we make our way on towards the mountain straight. Plenty of time to think about your next braking zone. In fact, you've got a crest and then you're going for a descent all the way now down towards Quarry Bend. You go over the crest there, get a little bit of speed up as well. Uphill on braking as we make our way in towards Quarry Bend. It's all the way uphill here. Promotes that understeer, so make sure you don't understeer too much out of the corner. Then you've got a quick flick left and then start braking for the cutting here. Down, are we going in towards first gear? We're staying in second for now just to make sure we get that wheel spin reduced through Griffin's Mount and through Reed Park then. Flying right-hander here, completely blind through there. You've got to trust the marshals and trust that it is clear as we head through Sulman Park and now making our way through these left-handers now, these quick, fast left-handers. Bit of a graze on the wall on the right-hand side there through McPhillamy Park, and now we head our way towards Skyline.
Yeah, now down through into turn 12 into the S's, and you can see that there is a car just up ahead of Dean Riley as he now makes his way through the dipper. That's turn 14 through into 15. You can just see down into third, having to downshift into first. The back end steps out to the left hand side, so Dean Riley clips the wall coming out of Forest Elbow at turn 19, and now it is pedal to the metal. Speeds in excess of 160 miles an hour as we hit over 250 kph in fifth gear, and on the rev limiter bounces Dean Riley, and very shortly he hits sixth into the run through into turn 20, through into the chase, all the way down. The gearbox is going to go down to second gear. That was around 120 kilometres an hour. There's about 70 miles an hour through the first part of the chase. Now down under the Murray's Bridge and through into the left-hander at Murray's Corner. That is a pretty good lap from Dean Riley. He comes out of Murray's Corner. Now, will he improve on that particular lap? Oh, he was close. That was a 2-minute, 0.963 from Dean Riley. Sheldon Muscat running in the Lexus, the number 14. He is just over 0.3 of a second adrift. We've still got 2.5 minutes of this session, but things are getting a little bit closer. Mark Neutelings has got himself up into P9 now. There is something you do not want to see on the outside of Forest Elbow, and that is one of the Ferraris front end into the exit of the corner, well, the actual outside wall. And that's not what you want here at Mount Panorama, but at least if they get the mistakes out of the way now, Kieran, that will keep them a little bit more happier ahead of qualification.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, isn't it? You want to make your mistakes here in this practice session. These drivers will have been putting in and grinding out these laps, lap after lap here at Mount Panorama. But this is just to get some last-minute nerves out of your system. These are some last-minute mistakes to get out there. And in theory, once you've got those out of the way, you can look forward to a qualifying session, which you should be able to deliver your absolute best lappers. Sheldon Muscat then starts a new flying lap. It will be his last lap of the session as he now makes his way in towards Hell Corner. Making our way now. This is Evangelos Apostolakis in the fidget spinner Lexus, the number 8 car. And, sorry, the number 2 car. Oh, there was a bit of a wallop there on Forest Elbow on the exit there, but I think he's got away with it as he now makes his way down the Conrod Straight. And, of course, here you want to be bouncing on the rev limiter. You go uphill once again, over a crest, then we head down in towards the flying right-hander here. Just
yeah, I mean,
amazing.
Apostolakis was very, very lucky with that brush of the wall coming out of Forest Elbow. I mean, you can get that completely wrong. Also, most notable incidents, 1 year after winning the Bathurst Super Jeep Bathurst 1000, when Chaz Mostert was running with Ford machinery, he came through the dipper and ended up going into the wall and ruining the race for him and the rest of the team in the Pepsi Max Ford Falcon. But Apostolakis now goes up into P6 and now drops Chris Pinchback from the SSR Racing 43 Aston Martin, and has probably just over 2/10 to find, but it's going to be more crucial next time out because we've only got 20 seconds of the session remaining as Dean Riley with that 2-minute 0.927 second lap time here at the 6.213 circuit. Also, some interesting facts that between Conrod Straight and Mountain Straight, they cover nearly half of the length of this circuit, 1.916 kilometres for Conrod Straight and 1.111 kilometres for Mountain Straight. And yeah, I mean the funny thing, oh god, the puns are coming in now as the checkers out for the session. Ashton Cox has just said, I thought ACC should add engine damage to this game, so down the Conrod Straight your engine could explode and you could possibly see a Conrod fly past you on Conrod Straight. Well, you'd actually see it going behind you if the Conrod blew there, Ashton, if it came out at the bottom end of the engine. But yeah, that's it for free practice. Next up, qualifying, but Colin Corkery from Ireland in the number 9 Aston Martin coming down Mountain Straight and heading into the chase. So Muscat doesn't improve on his lap time in free practice. But some drivers looking to improve. Jan Ryler up to 11th. Nathan Mifsud in the number 19. He rounds out the top 16. But I think it's going to be between the top 8, maybe the top 10, that could really factor in for pole position for this 2-hour race here, Kieran.
Yeah, absolutely. As Corkery comes across the line with his best lap of the session, puts him into 14th place. But in that practice session, we just saw there, top 5 positions covered by 5 different manufacturers. So it's giving us an early sign here that it doesn't really matter what car you've chosen. Every car has their strength and weakness. What matters here is the driver bravery. This is what separates a good lap at Mount Panorama from a great lap at Mount Panorama. You've really got to be so brave at the second part of the circuit that you've got to try and kiss every apex and, as I said before, be that millimetrically perfect, just the right amount of distance away from the rules so you can pick up the apex and take advantage of those long sweeping corners.
Yeah, I mean, even with some of the cars like, say, the McLaren 720S, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3, all producing around about 700 newton meters of torque from their respective twin-turbo V8s. I mean, torque is not everything. Straight line speed is going to help you down Conrod Straight, especially going into the chase, but you've got to have the stones to really put the anchors on at the right possible moment and leave it as late as humanly possible. But we have seen it before where drivers can get caught out, as it looks like now. Yep, qualifying underway, and the first minute and a quarter have already started. Well, that's already elapsed, as now we're with Dean Riley in the number 1, running with SimSport Solutions. He is now making his way down the Conrod Straight, and quite a few people tuning in, including good evening to Jean Pinchbeck. So she'll be cheering on Chris this evening in the number 43 Aston Martin. And that was quite interesting what you said, Kieran, about the fact that 5 different brands in the top 5. That is a clear indication that it is not going to be so cut and dry this evening here at Mount Panorama. But also, the other thing that we have to consider, the exertion, the mental and physical strains that these drivers will be under. It's a solo run for 2 hours. It's not going to be easy.
No, it's not, and 2 hours is just on that borderline. It's an endurance as such, but it's not one of the longer endurances that a driver could face. That being said, 2 hours is nothing to shrug your shoulders at. It's still a grueling place to go racing. 2 hours around Mount Panorama is still a grueling experience in itself. Adding to that, the drivers are going to be experiencing a day to dusk or possibly night cycle with the 5 times time scale. We start the race at midday in game time. We won't finish until about 10 o'clock in game time. So in that time, we might go through a full cycle. In that time, the track temperature is going to change, the air temperature is going to change. There's going to be a lot of factors that the drivers are going to have to deal with in such a short space of time. It's not as easy as it sounds, that's for sure.
And also the fact fuel conservation is going to be something rather crucial. And the most amount of lifting and coasting that you can do, if you're brave enough to do it, will be from Skyline all the way down to Forest Elbow. Because effectively, the car is using its own momentum as we are on board with Dean Riley through into Skyline, now through into the S's, down to second gear, down to first through the dipper, up to second to get that traction pull rather early. So effectively short shifting up the gearbox. Down to first once again through into turn 18 at Forest Elbow. Out of turn 19. Hard on the throttle goes Riley. Up to fourth. 220 kilometres an hour and climbing. Off the rev limiter again and now up to fifth gear to keep the momentum going through Conrod Straight. And now through into sixth gear. 275 kilometres an hour through into turn 20. Now hard on the brakes. Down into the chase. Down to second gear at about 125 kilometres an hour. He's scrubbed off the best part of well over 130 miles an hour speed in a short distance. And he's now going to set the benchmark. Through Murray's Corner comes Dean Riley. The number one from SimSport Solutions goes in, and he goes faster than he did by nearly a tenth in free practice. The benchmark set a 2-minute .873 from Dean Riley. Everyone else has now got some work to do, but Nat Thomas has gone second on that particular occasion. Nathan Mifsud from GT Omega RPM Esports, he goes through P4. Harry Spears just under 2 tenths behind Dean Riley, and that means we've now got, well, Florent Lacour in the number 44 has just gone third. So that means we've got Mercedes leading McLaren, Aston Martin, Audi, Aston Martin. That's the top 5 brands, but then Boychev comes through and puts the Lexus into P5.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a bad lap time whatsoever there. And we're seeing Coleman Corkery then making his way down in towards the final corner now, in towards Murray's Corner now, onto the pit straight. Let's see what time he can put down. It's going to be a 2:02.382, puts him onto the 4th row of the grid, 7th place to be more precise there. And as we were riding on board with Dean Riley there, I couldn't help but notice going in towards Skyline, you see the reason why that corner is called Skyline, because that's all you're seeing as you're trying to find the apex as you make your way then down in towards the S's and to the dipper. It is a fearsome track, that is for sure. You've got to have a lot of bravery around this circuit, have a lot of faith in the car to find the apex, as Sheldon Muscat then goes 4th fastest with a 2:01.4.
Yeah, the naturally aspirated V8 engine from that Lexus RCF GT3 looking rather handy around here at Mount Panorama. Pedro Gomez goes P9 in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, just over 2 seconds off of Dean Riley. So at the moment, pretty good showing by a lot of the drivers. Mark Neutlings rounds out the top 10. Tom McEwing in the number 90 from Great Britain rounds out the top 17. He's now going through turns 15 through into 16. He's now going to go through into Forest Elbow in the Ferrari. Hard on the brakes, through down into first gear, takes a tight line going into Forest Elbow, and then allows the car to drift wide, but not wide enough to scrape the wall on the right-hand side. And now we'll push that 3.9 litre twin-turbo V8, which produces in the region of 550 brake horsepower through Conrod Straight, now down into the deep braking zone, into the chase. Nathan Mifsud rounds out the top 15, and they're covered by 2.7 seconds. McEwing now exiting through the chase and going through into Murray's Corner. You can just hear the downshift blips as the exhaust note changes. Car goes across the line, 2 minute 2.787 from the number 90 of Tom McEwing, puts in P11, but Dean Riley out again. And look at this though, Nathan, he's just over a tenth off of his best lap time in 2 minute 1.005. that shows good consistency here in qualification, and now he's winding it up to volume number 11.
Yes, absolutely. And there's one thing you do want in an endurance race, and it is consistency. Consistency is key, as they always say when it comes to endurance racing. And if you can put some consistent lap down, you've got a good chance of getting into a good position. We've already got cars scrapping out there. We've got a Ferrari on the back of another light blue car, but we're seeing Dean Riley here on a flying lap as Spears then moves within 0.2 of a second of that provisional pole position. Let's follow Dean Riley as he now makes his way on towards the chase now from this lovely helicopter camera, now making our way through in towards that penultimate corner, but he's backed out of the lap time there, possibly because there was a bit of traffic ahead of him there, and he'll roll down the hill and try again. It was Silver Pyramids in the Ferrari then, and the flat-out racing Ferrari moves now up into 12th place with that 2:02.493, puts him onto the 6th row of the grid.
Yeah, don't forget, if you do want to get involved with any of the events that we have, whether it be casual or championship, head to worldproracing.com. You can also click on the relevant tabs, find out the latest news, find out about the events, which we'll be talking about a little bit later on in the broadcast. But also, we run championships on PC and PS4. We also use platforms such as rFactor 2. Assetto Corsa Competizione, like we're doing now, as Chris Pinchbeck comes out of Murray's corner, goes P5 with a 2-minute 1.437, and he has literally pipped Sheldon Muscat to 5th place on the grid by just 6 1/1000ths of a second. We also at times use Gran Turismo Sports, and there is a lot more in the offing. The HyperX Open Series starting this time next week. We've got German Fest 2 weeks from now. That'll be held at the Nürburgring with the BMW M6. Pedro Gomez from VMR Rookie Monsters in the 45, now trying to improve. He has dropped out of the top 10 due to previous good performances from the rest of the field in terms of qualifying. But that car's looking rather resplendent in the national colours of Brazil there, wouldn't you agree, Kieran?
It looks great though, doesn't it? Absolutely spectacular as he now tackles in towards the chase then. Let's see if he can improve on his P13. If he finds, 0.3 of a second, he's moving himself a couple of positions there as he runs a little bit wide there, slightly missing the apex over the crest. But he makes his way now down towards Murray's corner then, lining up this in the number 45 car and on towards the pit straight over the line. Can he find an improvement? He can, but it doesn't improve his position. It moves him ever closer to Silver Pyramids. There's Sheldon Muscat in the Emil Frey Lexus racing car, the number 14 car, currently 6th place in this qualifying session. Just over half a second off of Dean Riley's provisional pole position time of a 2-minute 0.858. And you can see here how narrow, how demanding this section is, and maybe have a slight brush of the wall there, a slight handshake on the way through, slightly then onto the grass as he's got yellow flags. The treble 8 car, yet he abandons that one. That's the treble 8 car of Peter Dombre, who was possibly in that section there, and I think the Lexus there just decided it was not worth the risk with the yellow flag there.
Yeah, Team Shark's Wojciech Neuwirth also brought out the yellow flags a bit earlier on, and we're seeing that the S's, the Dipper, Skyline, is really putting the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons. But we still have just over 4 minutes of this session still to go. Evangelos Apostolakis in the number 2 Lexus rounds out the top 13. He's got one of the other Lexuses behind him. And good to see the Bentleys being represented here. M Sport have actually won here at Mount Panorama. And the driver running it is Rainer Hesse. Now, that could be brightly coloured as Apostolakis gives the wall more than just a high five between Goose and Maverick, going through right there through Solman and McPhillamy. But he got away with that one, and that's how, even the smallest amount of damage, you could see that Apostolakis was struggling with the steering there, going through turn 16 and into 17 as they now go through Forest Elbow, and the other Lexus just behind is right up his exhaust pipes as they now floor the throttles, and that just goes to show here. That's the 64 just behind. That's Ivalo Boychev just behind him. He's currently running at the top 9 as they go over the crest here at Conrod Straight and now head towards turn 20, which is the entrance into the chase. You allow the car to go a little bit to the left before allowing it to drift wide to the right to keep it as far over as possible before going through the left-right here at the chase. But Apostolakis, I think, was quite lucky there, Kieran.
Yeah, I think so. He's lucky to get away with just a brush of the wall, an equivalent slap of the wrist. I don't think he's going to get away with that one, though, but he still goes quicker with a 2:02.3 point. Yeah, that was a very, very lucky way. It just shows you then that even with those two brushes with the wall, he can go quicker than P11. So watch this space. If he can keep a clean lap together, he could be well up there. But he's only got around about 20 seconds to find himself back onto track if he wants any sort of chance of putting down another lap. We've got Harry Spears here in the Miku time 2:85 McLaren as he now makes his way in towards Forest's Elbow. And onwards now we go towards Conrad Straight. He's in line to try and hang on and cling on to provisional pole position. He's got at least 2 tenths to find, but he's also got Dean Riley, who of course will be out there on a lap as well. So it's really going to be, I think, going to be a battle between these two. One lap will separate them. Who's going to grab that pole position?
Yeah, and I've just seen that Dean Riley making his way through Skyline right now as we speak. Harry Spears in the 285 McLaren 720S GT3 4-litre twin-turbo V8. It's the M840 is the engine designation from Woking's finest as Spears comes out of Murray's corner. Oh, 15 thousandths. If he was 16 thousandths quicker than Dean Riley, if he hadn't lost, I think he lost a little bit because he did brush the wall coming through McPhillamy. But Harry Spears has another lap in hand. Sheldon Muscat keeping it rather close to the wall there. I thank you. Oh, that was absolutely sublime going through McPhillamy. He literally was dancing with danger right there, and you can tell that Muscat has got the fire in the belly. Through into second, into third. He's gone through fourth, now going through the... Now that was coming out of the dipper and the S's. Muscat is really grabbing this Lexus RCF GT3, which is one of the other naturally aspirated cars on this grid. 5.4 litre naturally aspirated V8 engine pushing out about 540 horsepower, 530 newton meters of torque as he is getting he was rather close to the top speed of that car. He was pushing about 280 going through into the chase before the hefty braking zone. Looks like Muscat's really doing his level best, and this could be a rather quick lap time from the Maltese driver as he comes out of Murray's corner. As we now find out whether he does improve. He doesn't. He lost a little bit of time, but Riley and Spears have called it a day. Florent Lacour has also done so, and that's 3 different brands in the top 3. Make it 4 with Nat Thomas. Checkered now out for qualifying. Jan Heiler in the 333 R3 Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo now making his way down in that wonderfully sounding 6.2 litre V8. 550 brake horsepower, 650 newton meters of torque, weighing just a shade over 1,285 kilos as he comes through the chase. Let's see if Jan Ryler can improve. But obviously, other drivers that we could watch out for here, Kieran, even though we've got just under 2.5 minutes for drivers to complete their final lap. I mean, Pinchbeck's called it a day. Nat Thomas could be quick in the Audi, but Jan Ryler, I think he goes P7, drops Boychev down to 8th. Yeah, these drivers have really been pushing like crazy tonight, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have, and we just see the number 90 there of Nathan Mifsud there. Corkery also abandoning his lap time, so we've got Nat Thomas on a flying lap in the Audi. He's going to be one of the last to set a lap time there as the number 14. That was Muscat there, Sheldon Muscat, pulling to the side there. So we were, touting him for a quick lap, and he's abandoned it all the same. We've only got 4 cars left out there, but Nat Thomas will be the last one to cross the line in the Omega E Racing Team number 7 Audi as he now makes his way down this long Conrad straight on towards the chase. Of course, you've got the kink, the right-hander here. You've got to use that tarmac on the left-hand side to open up the corner, try and scrub off the least speed possible as we now make our way in towards the chase then. All about making sure you don't apply the throttle too early there. So easy over the first part there to spin up those rear tyres. We now head down in towards Murray's corner and onto the pit straight. Can Nat Thomas improve on his 4th place here? Yes, he can. Goes 3rd fastest in that qualifying session. Great lap time from Nat Thomas to put his Audi up onto the top of the 2nd row of the grid. But it's a great day for one Dean, isn't it?
Yeah, Dean Riley from SimSport Solutions. But yeah, Nat Thomas definitely showing us some Vorsprung durch Technik here at Mount Panorama to put it on P3. Yes, there will be plenty of puns. We've been talking about that before. It's even started in the chat. Thank you very much, Ashton Cox. But now it's a different kettle of fish altogether here, Kieran, because the drivers are going to have their eyeballs on stalks. It's a 5-time timescale multiplier on the server. We're going to start probably in probably what's going to be the hottest conditions that may exacerbate going through. Now, in the YouTube chat, someone has said predictions time. Thank you very much to our broadcast team over at the HQ in Malta. I never like doing predictions, and this is the reason why, Kieran, because with a 2-hour race, 2 mandatory pit stops, everyone's got to refuel. The biggest thing is I can't predict anything, because if I do, I normally get it wrong.
I mean, ask me about 30 seconds before the checkered flag. I might have a vague idea about who could win this one, but yeah, we'll leave it up to the drivers. I mean, Dean Riley was in good form there, but you also had the McLaren right behind, so that was within 200ths of a second. That was just in qualifying. Qualifying is just that one lap put together, but these drivers will have to put some really good laps together over 2 hours, whilst bearing in mind they've got to try and save their fuel as much as possible, so that they have to take on board less fuel, therefore less time spent in the pits. They've also got to try and look after their tyres. It's not a mandatory thing to change your tyres, but you want to keep them in good nick throughout the race, and trying to keep them in that good nick for 2 hours will be a challenge in itself. I'm really looking forward to this one, because not only do those things matter to the drivers, the fuel and the tyres, but the walls seem to get closer and closer with every lap that goes by. So it's going to be a test of bravery here for these drivers. I can't wait to see who comes out on top and who gets that peak performance at the mountain. Sorry, so I had to slip that in there.
You did indeed, but it looks like we're about to get things underway here at World Pro Racing. Friday night action, GT3s, plenty of brutal horsepower behind each and every one of these cars as we come out of Murray's Corner. 2 hours here on World Pro Racing at the iconic New South Wales circuit, simply known as Mount Panorama. It is Riley and Spears, Thomas and Lockour on the front 2 rows, and we are green. The green flag has been waved. We are off under full racing conditions, and Harry Spears round the outside of Hell Corner on Dean Riley through on the very first lap. Oh, the McLaren really using its torque to the maximum advantage as they go up Mountain Straight. They roar up Mountain Straight for the first time, and now Nat Thomas trying to close in on Dean Riley as they go through Quarry Bend. But Spears there, Kieran, got an absolute flyer, and I think he caught Dean Riley napping.
I think he did, and that could have an element of fuel strategy behind it as well, but take nothing away from that move around the outside there. That was brilliantly done by Harry Spears. Just got the perfect launch, the perfect start there. Now finds himself into the lead of this race. Everyone made it through hell, so they should, try and settle themselves down now and try and focus on the next 2 hours. And to be honest with you, everyone's made it through. Everyone's had a clean start so far, but I can't wait to see who I've just cursed in the commentary box here.
Well, I did see there might have been a slight glance on the right-hand side of the Mercedes of Dean Riley. We now head back to McEwing, and he's got Silver Pirmets closing in on his back bumper. Apostolakis just up ahead with Corkery in 11th. So a lot of changes happening all the way up and down the order. Mark Neusling's down in 19th position. And we've got the 118, that is of Chris Bourne from Exiled Racing. As now Riley feeling the heat from Thomas, going down in towards the chase, down the Conrod Straight. The Audi right in the slipstream, down through into turn 20. Thomas is going to go for the move. He's gone late break here when he clashes door panels, and Riley has no other alternative but to run wide, and the front splitter's doing some grass cutting at the minute. And I think that was a bit robust from Nathan Thomas. He went for the move. I think Dean Riley's now got to fight back as, Chris Pinchbeck goes flying off the circuit off of Murray's Corner and now drops outside of the top 10. These drivers really need to keep it clean, because one thing that will happen, and we know that for a fact, you and I, Kieran, that race director Adrian Figalo will be on them quicker than anything as Pedro Gomez hits the wall. That is on the approach through into Skyline, and that number 45 Ferrari is very much wounded.
Yeah, definitely on the right-hand side there. He'll have some steering damage for sure, some front right-hand panel body damage as well, and no doubt there'll be some body rubbing on the tyre as well. So all manner of things have gone wrong for Pedro Gomez, but I believe he's still out there, so he doesn't think the damage is worth a pit stop just yet. We have had some drivers into the pits then. The number 90 car is currently in the pits. The number 32 car also, Tom McEwing has made his way back to the pits. He's now rejoined onto the circuit, but he's all the way now down as the last of the runners. There's Sheldon Muscat. Now, he tried to move in towards Hell Corner. I believe he managed to make it stick. So good move from Muscat now. He's up into 4th place and will now try and chase down Florent Lacour for that 3rd place. But we have to remind these drivers there is a long way to go in this race. There's plenty of pit stops that can shake up this race. And of course, those walls are ever looming in your peripheral vision, and they're always ready to ruin your race if you just let up for a second.
Yeah, looks like Jan Heiler in the R3 Racing 333 Mercedes coming under salvo fire from Dean Riley, who's got the wind back beneath his wings, well, the AMG wings, that is, going down into Conrad Straight, as now we go to Yuri Stickforth in the Nissan, one of the only Nissans on here. Joachim in the number 73 has also got into there. Tom McEwing in 28th position, but you see in the picture there are some great battles on, the likes of Peter Dombre, and also you've got the likes of Kirsten Abaya in there. Jordan Burrows running in the oh, look at that, the British GT livery sported by Jenson Button at the Silverstone 500 last season, and he's having a great battle with Apostolakis, and that's for P9 on the road.
Ooh, Stickful there, almost running into the back of Gomez then, but Gomez, I think, has actually moved ahead of him, so maybe that Ferrari isn't as damaged as we thought, as Stickful then loses another position to Joachim there, as we make our way through in towards Hell Corner and onwards now. So Stickful falling down the field a little bit, but again, it's a long race. He can still have time to recover. It's just got to try and get that mentality back. It's hard to do sometimes when you're in a position where you're just falling down the order, but keep your consistency, because you never know what's going to happen up ahead of you. And of course, if you are unfamiliar with Assetto Corsa Competizione, you can see by the driver's name you've got a little orange bar next to their name. That indicates how many mandatory pit stops they have left in the race. Once they've completed their mandatory stops, that bar will then go green, telling everyone that they've made all the stops that they have had to. And of course, fueling is mandatory at those stops, so drivers will have to bear that in mind.
Yeah, track temperature now has raised a further degree. It was a little bit cooler by about 11 degrees Celsius in qualifying. Now in the middle point of the day, 33 degrees track temperature, 25 degrees ambient. As now Ivolo Boychev closing on Sheldon Muscat, and they've got Florent Lacour in the number 44 Aston Martin just up ahead. That's the battle for P3. And it looks like Jan Heiler has got a little bit away from Dean Riley, with Rainer Hesser in the 690 Bentley. Not too far behind either. And as always with Rainer Hesser, we have a bit of the bright highlighter pink on his cars, especially when we had the Nightmaster at Suzuka, as Corkery sending it up the inside from another postcode and then goes grass tracking, trying to get past Jordan Burrows, and Corkery's now going to get caught out because Pirmets and Pinchback not too far behind. So Corkery came a bit of a cropper there going through the chase.
I think he got away with that one, but he's clouted the curb at Murray's corner there. He could be under significant pressure down the pit straight. But there you can see Harry Spears is leading by 4.1 seconds at this very, very early stage, as Nat Thomas in second place. There you can see Florent Lacour in third, Sheldon Muscat fourth place, Boychev in fifth, Ryler in sixth place, with Dean Riley trying to recover now. He's in seventh place, but he's putting Ryler there through a little bit of the works as we now make our way in through Quarry Bend. Nice camera angle there as the drivers now ascend all the way in through now the cutting, as you try and slow the car down for this one. And Ryder here really under pressure from Dean Riley, as they've also got Rissar, Apostolakis, Burrows as well, all closing in on that battle. The more these two battle away here, the more attention they're going to bring to themselves with drivers further down.
Yeah, Mark Neustings has moved up a little bit further up the order. He's up from 15th. He's just under 4 tenths behind Silva Permets, who is 1.3 seconds behind Chris Bourne. And there is Jan Reiler. We're actually got him on the main picture, and then actually a rear view from the top of the rear part of the roof on that Mercedes. Very low slung car. Heavy aerodynamic reshuffle for the 2020 version of the car. And for those wondering, how can you tell the difference between the Evo and the non-Evo? Well, the non-Evo has much bigger headlamps. They went a bit more aggressively streamlined for the 2020 variant. It's been piloted by drivers like Mauro Engel, Adam Christodoulou, amongst others, Ollie Webb, to name but just a few drivers. Mauro Engel has also competed around here when it was V8 supercars, when he was with Erebus Motorsport, when they brought the E-Class Mercedes into Virgin Australia, into Australian supercars. And yeah, Engel had a year and then ended up going back a bit like Robert Dahlgren, the Swede that was with Polestar Racing when Gary Rogers Motorsports, who has won the 2 previous editions of the Bathurst 24 Hours, that only ran for 2 seasons because Procar Australia, the management company behind it, actually folded after a decade of operation. But Muscat now, look at this train here, and this is the Nat Thomas train here, because he's in second. Lacour, Muscat, Boychev, they're all closing up on each other, going through Quarry Bend. Oh, now that was a bit wide there by Muscat, and Boychev managed to put that up the inside of the Maltese driver, and now has got himself up into 4th position as Thomas is getting the hurry up. Oh, moment there for Boychev. Oh, that's not where you want it to happen, going through the cutting. And he's just lost a position, I think, to Muscat. Now Ryler and Riley right up with them. This is getting rather hairy, going through Frog Hollow, Silman Park, now through into McPhillamy before Skyline, as Lacour trying to go on the offensive with the Omega E Racing Team Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo of Nat Thomas. We ride on board with Florent Lacour from France in the Evostaya Sport eSport Aston Martin. It's the 4-litre twin-turbo V8, actually a Mercedes AMG-derived lump, running in the Aston Martin. This produces around about 700 newton-meters of torque, 535 brake horsepower, but in comparison with the weight disparity between the two, actually, in many respects, the Aston Martin here, Kieran, is 10 kilos heavier, but obviously going through the downward parts, it's going to be rather interesting if that extra 10 kilos on that Aston Martin is going to help Florent Lacour in the battle with Nat Thomas.
Over the long run, it'll be interesting to see. And we've got Muscat and Boychev once again battling away. You just saw there in the picture-in-picture, they were thinking about going side by side on the exit of the chase. And through the S's, and then we make our way now on towards the dipper there. And again, not really an overtaking opportunity, but a perfect opportunity to put the pressure on the car ahead as we make our way now in towards Forest's Elbow. Let's have a replay of what happened here. So we're seeing a McLaren and a Lamborghini come together. That would have been the number 13 car there, and deciding to go all the way backwards there. And the McLaren actually does wait up as well, or attempts to wait up for the Lamborghini. So he's hoping that that action in itself will hope the stewards give him a more lenient punishment there.
Especially when said driver in the McLaren was Nathan Mifsud.
Yes.
Need I say any more about that one?
Yikes. We'll avoid that conversation.
Yeah, yikes is an understatement. But Dean Riley, in the meantime, has managed to get past Jan Heiler who now has Reina Hessa behind him. A nice colour combination there, Heiner, I must admit. A bit of black with that highlighter purple there on that Bentley Continental GT3, the 2018 version. That is the latest edition here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, as they now go through Hell Corner on lap number 7. And Harry Spears' lead over Nat Thomas is now a whopping nigh on 8.6 seconds. And there is the Miku time, 2:85. Oh, now that was a moment going through Quarry Bend there, or Griffin's Bend there for Harry Spears. But I think that was just a slight glance. And with the amount of lead that he's got, Harry Spears just needs to be consistent and also conservative all at the same time here.
Yeah, and you can't afford to let complacency set in. That's the main thing as well. You can't lead yourself into... You can get yourself into a rhythm, but you can't get yourself into this sort of trance where you think everything's going to go okay, because that's the moment that if you start letting off just a little bit, the tyres can start to cool down and the brakes will start to cool down. It's very, very minor, but if you stop pushing as hard, you'll start to notice that the car doesn't perform as well as it used to, as we're seeing side-by-side action here as Stickfort tries to go round the outside of Peter Dombre, but Dombre manages to hang on to that position. He now opens himself up from the McLaren of Farhan as we make our way now in towards the left-hander here of the cutting, and then in towards Griffin's Mount, and up the hill we will go through Reed Park. And yeah, Stickfort there tried to make a move stick, didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to there. As we approach 15 minutes in this race gone, we've already had such a lot of drama, lots of drivers glancing the walls here. It'd be interesting to see when the driver, or which driver, blinks first in their scheduled mandatory stop. I wouldn't say their first mandatory stop. We have seen drivers in. We are going to see within the next sort of 10 minutes see these leaders put a lap on other cars, and putting a lap on a car around Mount Panorama, especially where you are on the track, is going to be a tricky one. We're seeing Gautam Reddy here through the first corner and lighting up those rear tyres, and a big smack of the wall there. Very easy to do there, and well, we'll see what sort of damage he'll have on that car. No doubt there'll be a little bit of performance damage.
Yeah, that's very much the case. And with just about a quarter of an hour completed, when we get to half an hour, we'll be a quarter of the way through. But at the moment, Tom McEwing and Pedro Gomez are the first ones that have already made pit stops. Gomez, after that off-track excursion at Skyline, when the Ferrari hit the wall, I would have thought that he probably would have thought, well, maybe if I get the car a little bit heavier with the fuel load, just work with the tyres, not against them, just try and be neat and consistent, that should hopefully help me out. Well, at the moment, that is helping him out to a certain extent, because he has one pit stop in the bag. However, the drivers at the minute, Nat Thomas has now got a 9/10 of a second advantage over Florent Lacour, as there's a little bit of a wobble there going through into Skyline and then through into the S's for Nat Thomas, but he manages to catch it quite nicely. And one of the other things that we have here with the different variations on drivetrain assemblies for these cars, you know, the Audi mid-engined rear-wheel drive, the Aston Martin as close to front engine as you get in a GT3 car, rear-wheel drive. So the Audi, in terms of the twisty stuff through, like say McPhillamy, Skyline, the S's, the Dipper, you know, places like the Cutting, Reed Park, Silverman Park, you know, that car's going to have a bit of an advantage. You know, you'll see other cars like that, say the McLaren, the Ferrari. They do, with that mid-engine placement in the car, that really not only helps the centre of gravity, but the weight distribution and also the handling characteristics of the car.
And it's almost like you'll see all these, you know, how the car handles and what sort of drivetrain it is. But when it comes to Mount Panorama, it really does decide your race on how brave you are through some of these corners. You can have the best performing car in the world around this track, but if you don't use it right, you're not going to get the good results. Ohak here is looking to go round the outside of Ebea here and manages to make that stick. Great move there from David Ohak, but he runs a little too deep then in towards the chase, leaves his braking too late, and Ebea simply takes that position back by maybe braking a little bit earlier than he normally would, but he has managed to regain that position. We've heard from the stewards then that no further action will be taken on cars 19 and 13 for their instance. So that's no further action there between the two of them. So we're free to race on as much as we like. Dean Riley, meanwhile, is now up into 5th place. He's got Sheldon Muscat in his sights.
Yeah, and whilst that's all been happening, Florent Lacour is about 3.2 seconds up the road. Yeah, that was the incident between Ohak and Mifsud earlier on. As there is now Ivalo Boychev. Oh, lights up the back end. Oh, it starts having a bit of a wobble moment, and then the right-hand side of the back end steps out. Boychev was running high. He was running ahead of Muscat. And now, one of the things is that back marker traffic, that is Yuri Stickforth there in front of them. And now, that's another one of the Lexus cars. That's the 222. So now, Muscat really feeling the heat. And it's two of Falterbach's finest right up his back bumper. And look at this. Jan Riley had a double toe from both Riley and by Muscat heading into Conrad. And now into the chase as Muscat taking the tighter line. Dean Riley looking every which way. He's looking left, he's looking right. And now he's starting to flash the old lights as there goes Jan Riley trying to go up the inside as one of the Lexuses behind pulls into the pit lane. I did see that Mark Neutlings in his car has now pitted. But this battle waging on here, and this is for 4th on the road here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, it's great to see this early on in the race, but the drivers are going to have to think about their strategy at some point. Of course, they'll be throwing it out of the window for now. Muscat holding on to 4th place. Dean Riley in 5th. Jan Ryler is in 6th place then. Apostolakis there in 7th place. Not too far away, not just within sort of touching distance of this battle. The longer this battle goes on, the more chance there is for the Greek man to join this battle and join this battle for 4th place. He's got Burrows on his tail. You got Reina Ressar also in the Bentley. 3 seconds adrift of Burrows, but again, they're relying on drivers ahead of them battling away for position. It draws them closer and closer in as the drivers battle, lose time between each other. You've got Muscat then 2 seconds back from the last car. There's Yuri Stickfort then in currently 26th place, and of course he had back markers. He still does have back markers to front runners to let through. He's been showing the green flags by the blue flags by the marshals at this moment in time. But of course, when you get to this part of the circuit, the latter part, this sort of middle section, it's so tricky to not only make an overtake happen but let a car through cleanly and safely. He hits the wall there trying to let a car through, then hits the other car and spins himself around. Just talking about there how trying to appease these blue flags can often lead you into trouble. You just saw it firsthand.
Apostolakis had Burrows alongside him when he does have the McLaren alongside him, because it was Apostolakis that I think got caught out by Yuri Stickforth there, and that meant that the Greek driver had no other alternative. But that's going to be investigated by race control. We'll await for the stewards to give their decision on that one. But Jordan Burrows in the Team Rocket RJN colours in the number 3 McLaren 720S GT3, trying to do his best to get past Evangelos Apostolakis. This is for 7th on the road as Boychev has served his first pit stop. So he would have been the one that went in a bit earlier on after that moment, as Burrows looking one way, then the other. He was trying to do the old Nigel Mansell dummy on Evangelos Apostolakis, who runs wide and kicks up the dust coming out of held corner. And that sheer torque of that McLaren, that's got over 170 Newton meters more of torque than that 5.4 litre naturally aspirated V8. But in terms of it, now I'm looking at the weights of these cars as well. This is where things get really interesting. The Lexus RCF is 16 kilos lighter, and that's round the outside going into the cutting. Jordan Burrows, you are a brave individual right there, but they better watch behind them, because that looks to be Reina Hesse that's closed in on them. And whilst that's all happening, there was a bit of a clip of the wall there going through Reed Park for Apostolakis, trying to get away from Burrows. Resser's right on their 6. Corkery and Pinchbeck not too far behind either. And then all the way down a little bit further, Silva Pirmet's having a massive battle with Chris Bourne and Wojciech Neuwirth in the numbers 118 BMW and the 62 Aston Martin. You try telling drivers you've got a 2-hour endurance race at Mount Panorama with 2 mandatory refuel stops here at any particular point in the race. The red mist is well and truly down tonight here on Friday on World Pro Racing.
Well, I think for Jordan Burroughs as well, he saw Apostolakis just get a twitchy back end there, and that's an invitation. That's the only invitation a driver needs to try and make a move around the outside or up the inside. The last thing you want to do is show any sort of weakness to the driver behind, but you can see here Jordan Burroughs has to try and focus his attention on defending against that Bentley of Ressart. You're not going to miss that black and pink bright Bentley there, currently occupying a 9th spot then, but we've got Apostolakis, who now makes his way in towards the pit lane to serve the first of his 2 mandatory stops as Jordan Burroughs then defends from Ressart. Around the outside, Ressart tried to go, but he couldn't quite find the move there. Jordan Burroughs just about holding on. He'll now go up to 7th place, of course, with the Greek man pitting. But, well, we have to talk about Harry Spears. He's now over 11 seconds in the lead from Florent Lecour. And there he is, the Brit in the number 285 Miku Time McLaren, making his way through. He's making this look easy, isn't he?
Yeah, but it's anything but behind the wheel. For those, for those that are new to sim racing that are joining us, a very warm welcome to World Pro Racing. I talked about this briefly. Now, this is a 2-hour flat-out endurance race. You can't call endurance races, like leisurely affairs, because they're anything from it with this current technology that we have in racing cars these days. But not only is the mental focus at a high, the physical exertion. You've got direct drive through the hubs that are connected to the steering wheel. The driver's going to be absolutely pushing like crazy. Will be fully focused. Hydration is a key point that you need to factor in. A pit stop is probably a welcome time to get a good bit of hydration on board. Now, is that me, Chris Bourne, in the BMW M6? Now, Neuwirth has gone old school in the Aston Martin. He's gone for the good old V12.
It's a great
sound. One of the most successful, if not the most successful car in British GT history, and he's running in the ARM Motorsport colours. ARM Motorsport have had quite a few drivers like Jake Dennis through their doors, Alex Lynn amongst others. Recently had a foray into DTM for one particular season in 2019. Ferdinand Habsburg was racing for them at the time, as well as Danny Yulkadea and also Paul di Resta. Jordan Burroughs, with 1 hour and 35 minutes to go, pulls the McLaren into the pit lane from P7. He'll drop outside of the top 10, as now Chris Pinchbeck has passed him on the start-finish straight. And one of the other things that we have to remember here, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you speed in the pit lane, it is a mandatory stop-go 30.
Yeah, it's one of the worst penalties you could get, especially in an endurance like this where you haven't got a lot of time to make that time back up. As Lagreston here trying to defend from Silver Pyramids as we now make our way in towards the kink, the right-hander here, before we make our way on towards the chase. And we've got Pyramids going up the inside. Can he slow that car down in time? Yes, he can. And Pyramids then moves up into 17th place. He has made a mandatory stop. Lagreston has not just yet. So Pyramids, the Estonian, now up in the flat-out racing number 66 Ferrari, moves now into 17th place.
Yeah, so 1 hour, 34 minutes remaining on the clock. Harry Spears continues to lead the 2 hours of Mount Panorama casual race here on World Pro Racing with Alex Goldschmidt and Kieran McKinley, your commentary duo for this evening. Further events coming up here on World Pro Racing. You can head to, first of all, worldproracing.com for further information, and you can also register on the site there. We've got the Italian job on Tuesday. 2 races, 2 manufacturers, Monza and Imola, if memory serves me correctly, and then we have Ferrari versus Lamborghini. And each driver that takes part in that, you have to use both cars, otherwise you are promptly disqualified from the event. To close out things on March will be round 3 of the USF 2000 Series Championship on Wednesday the 31st of March, and we head to Portimao in Portugal. Then the commencement of the first race of the Hyper X Open Series, taking place at Autodromo Nazionale di Monza next Friday. And then have the penultimate round of the USF 2000 Series on the 7th of April, as here is a replay. This is Harry Spears whilst leading the race, and this is going through, I think that was the cutting he was just negotiating. Oh, now that car, that looks ominous there for Harry Spears. Now the biggest thing is, that looks like a technical issue, or was that? Well, he's still running, but that was a massive moment. I think that might have been a hardware or a software issue there.
I think so, because you saw there the car was sort of keeping on brushing the right-hand side of the wall, so that led me to believe that, you know, when a wheel disconnects, it normally goes in one direction or the other. It can do, depending on what sort of manufacturer your wheel is, so that could be some sort of wheel problem. Hopefully he has got it fixed here, as Tom McEwing and Jordan Burroughs go side by side, and Jordan Burroughs having the outside line. He takes advantage going into the chase and moves ahead of Tom McEwing, taking 18th spot with him. But Tom McEwing is not going to have that lying down. We now make our way down in towards Murray's Corner here. As you see the picture-in-picture, we're seeing the rear wing of Jordan Burroughs. We're watching Tom McEwing trying to find a way past that McLaren once again as we make our way into Hell Corner, which follows, of course, Mountain Straight. But Jordan Burroughs here looking like he's got a great exit there. That Ferrari of Tom McEwing, though, will have a little bit of tow on the Mountain Straight. Let's ride on board with him. Of course, you've got the crest here, then you go downhill before you then ascend again towards Quarry Bend. But I think Burroughs has done just enough to stay ahead there. He'll hold on to 18th place for now. But yeah, a little bit of a worrying sign there for our race leader, but he'll be hoping that all those issues have been fixed, because he had well over 14 seconds worth of buffer for something to go wrong like that, at least.
Yeah, very true. Well, Dean Riley in the number 1. Riley with SimSport Solutions, and the Mercedes AMG GT3 is now in 2nd place as a result of Florent Lecour actually pitting, and the number 44 from France has rejoined in 15th position, 8.8 well, he was about 8.8 seconds behind Peter Dombre in the number 8, the 888 Ferrari. Oh, now that was a moment and a half for a particular Lexus, and just ahead of Alan Gooch from Team Valkyrie. That was, and Team Valkyrie made, I think it was their debut appearance as another Lexus goes up the inside. Good spatial awareness there from the 222 of Alan Gooch from Team Valkyrie, as there is Nathan Mifsud. He's now up into 11th position. The front, the front of that car looks reservedly second-hand. There's a few paint chips that are definitely on the part of the nose between the two headlights on that 720S.
Yeah, that's slightly unfortunate. It's a nice paint job as well, but you know, that just shows you that a car has been in an endurance race. You know, you have some scrapes with the wall. As long as you keep the car moving in the right direction, as long as it's got enough power, enough performance to get you to the line, how it looks at the end is rather irrelevant. Might look a bit chipped and in the wars, but if it gets you to the line, so be it. As he makes his way now in the GT Omega RPM Esports McLaren. The number 19 car making his way now in through these next series of corners through.
Point on the circuit, which is Skyline, all the way down to the lowest points. And the funny thing is that from the start finish line, the track can be viewed in 3 sections: the short pit straight, and a tight turn left into Mountain Straight, you know, through Hell Corner, and then the narrow section across the top of you know, Skyline and McPhillamy Park. You know, there's major vantage points, and you know, the amount of times that the Super Cheap Bathurst 1000 has run here, you know, with people such as Jamie Wincup, the late Peter Brock, Craig Lowndes, Chaz Mostert, Shane van Gisbergen, you know, Peter Reynolds, they've all won here. I still remember Greg Murphy's Lap of the Gods, as they called it back in the early 2000s, when it was the proper full-on Ford versus Holden war here in Australia. You know, we still have that to the day where the Mustang is still against the Commodore, the Holden Commodore, or what we would class over here in the United Kingdom as the Vauxhall Insignia. So it's quite funny how things are changing, but obviously with possibility of the Chevy Camaro hitting the Supercars grid for Gen 3, I'm rather excited at that prospect, because that'll be Camaro versus Mustang, and that'll be one hell of a scrap. But Coleman Corkery closing on Rainer Esser, as we are just 33 minutes into this 2-hour race here at Mount Panorama. The Irishman jumps up the inside of the 690. That was a very clean move, and Corkery keeps it pinned on the inside of turns 21 and 22. But here comes Hesser back up the inside through with the Bentley Continental GT3 from 2018. And that car is actually one of the heaviest cars on the grid. The funny thing is, I'm not at all surprised that no one's using the non-Evo Mercedes or even the Porsche. The Porsche is the heaviest car through the current running order of things. Pedro Gomez has a massive pinball wizard moment there. There is Christopher Ligretson, who is in between the two leaders. Now, that's his Harry Spears, and right behind his back bumper, Ligretson, is Dean Riley. In the gap between the two leaders, just over at 1.1 seconds, as Dombre comes under pressure from Florent Lacour, who is coming up the inside, going into Murray's corner, the number 44 deep onto the brakes, through into the left-hander, the 90 left that brings them onto the pit straight. Yeah, back marker traffic now really factoring in at this particular moment in time, Kieran.
Yeah, and it's, you know, sort of luck of the draw where you come across these back markers at some point in this race. Let's have a look at a replay here of Pedro Gomez. So what happens to Pedro Gomez? It just looks like he's lit up the rear tyres on the curb there on the outside, exiting Quarry Bend. And good job from the drivers around to avoid that bright pink and yellow, bright green and yellow Brazilian liveried car there. But yeah, lighting up on the curb there, those rear tyres, so easy to do when you're pushing as hard as possible. But this time he's not got away with it. I think he did get himself a tow back to the pit lane then, so he'll be held there for some time. That's of course if the car can be used again. And we've got Ressart and Corkery going hammer and tong once again as we fly our way through the right hand. Oh, they've come together, and Ressart around, so too is Corkery, and that was Pinchbeck there, who was just caught up, had absolutely nothing to do with that battle and just caught up in it there. Well, I think their Corkery caught the back of Ressart, but did Ressart give him enough room there? I'd rather leave that one to the stewards, but 3 cars spinning around there, and I think all of them will be heading back to the pits. No, Corkery stays out there, the Irishman, so that'll be one for the stewards to have a look at there. We'll see Jan Ryler there in the R3 racing car, currently 3rd place then. He's got Thomas 4.5 seconds back. And there he is in that black and green liveried R3 Racing Mercedes, the number 333 car, making his way now up through the cutting. On we go then through Griffin's Mount and Reed Park. Just keeping it nice and steady for now. At the moment, then it is Harry Spears.
Yeah, it wasn't very steady between Ressart and Corkery. That much is true going through the chase. It gave me PTSD with for Garth Tander memories back in the mid-2010s there. But yeah, that's going to be one for the stewards to investigate. And I think with the way that Ressart's dropping down the field, he's repairing damage. I think he's probably deciding, well, that Bentley's a little bit battle-scarred. I want to get it up to full fitness and fighting. But that could drop him a little bit further outside of the top 15 if he's not careful. We're going to go to a replay now. Now, this is going through into the chase. That's a 50-50. That is very much a 50-50 because I couldn't really see from that angle how... I mean, if Corkery went for the move, the thing is that Ressart had the inside line. So it's 1 of one and 500 of the other. So that to me, if Corkery was far enough alongside, if he was on the inside of Ressa, okay, you're going into the right-hand kink, but then the next one is a left-hander. So Ressa would have had the right of passage to go through there. And he was giving, I think, Colin Corkery the bit of the old thou shalt not pass treatment, as now Jean-Pierre Joachim from Valkyrie Esport battling away with Florent Lacour, and Lacour giving the 73 a little bit of a tap from behind. Now, let's not forget that Nissan actually won this race back in 2015. Right, okay, no further action. It was declared as a racing incident between Corkery and Rainer Ressa. So our race director very much on the case with that one. But this is just as close, just as heated. It is Godzilla versus Gaydon's finest, as now the Aston Martin looking to really stretch its legs, going down into the chase. Absolutely pulled past Joachim did Florent Lacour in the 44. Absolutely textbook from the Aston Martin. And when you look at the torque differential, 637 for the Nissan, which promptly pits, but that was an absolute send and a half through the chase by Florent Lacour.
Yeah, he's wasting no time there. Obviously, he's one of the first of the quote-unquote front runners to take his first mandatory stop, so he'll be wanting to try and get his way through the field as quickly as he possibly can. Now he's got a bit of clear air ahead of him. I think the next car ahead of him is around 17 seconds ahead, so this is a perfect time for him now to keep his head down and get these lap times in. He's dealt with enough traffic as it is.
Yeah, Mark Noislings has just said, yeah, bidding it twice is enough for me on a Friday evening. Good evening to you as well, Mark. Hope you're keeping well, buddy. One of the regulars through my many travels. He's part of the SimSport Racing crowd that have decided to join us, as have SimSport Solutions. So Ivalo Boychev in the number 64 from IDS Racing, rounding out the top 19. He's about 3.6 seconds behind Evangelos Apostolakis, who is right up the back bumper of David Ohak in, I think that looks to be the sole Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. And out of pretty much all the cars that are on this grid, apart from the Lexus, it is the one with the second lowest torque amount of torque in terms of Newton meters. Nat Thomas is still rounding out the top four, but Harry Spears has pitted, giving the lead to Dean Riley. Jan Heiler in the 333. That looks to be Joachim that has just come out of the pit lane. Muscat in the pits, Neuwirth in the pits. So 40 minutes in, they are starting to, it looks like that strategy is starting to unfold here, as Ohak has Apostolakis breathing down his rear exhaust pipes, going through in towards Forest Elbow. And it's Lamborghini versus Lexus, and the Lamborghini doing the good bit of D through the twisty stuff. But the Lexus, if Apostolakis gets right in the toe, which he looks to be doing right now, could have the advantage. As look at the closing speed. Apostolakis looking for the momentum to carry him past the Lamborghini. Ohak goes stage left, and that allows Apostolakis to get through and hit the brakes nice and cleanly. That makes it nicely done through the chase.
Yeah, nice work there from Apostolakis, then using that toe to his advantage and grabbing P15 along with it, going in towards Murray's corner. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of cars coming into the pits. Then makes sense. It then divides their race up into those three equal 40-minute stints. Of course, they quote-unquote equal. They're supposed to be equal. Oh, as we've got Legreston into the wall there, and that was a good avoiding action then from the Aston Martin. I think that was Corkery, who's already been in the wars today, and Legreston just about keeping it out of harm's way of everybody else. But I'm kind of looking at that car. That looks like it's got a bit of steering damage to it. Certainly that bonnet is just about staying on, but it does look a little bit out of shape there. Yeah, quote-unquote equal stints of 40 minutes, but of course you spend a bit of that in the pit lane. But that's what it looks like the drivers are going for here, at least the majority of the field. But Dean Riley, though, still leading the way, still yet to make at least one stop in this race so far. So too is Nat Thomas in second place there, 14.2 behind the race leader. There is Nathan Mifsud then, one of the last of the runners then to make two stops, but he's under pressure from one of the Aston Martins there, and I think that would have been Florent Lecour who's made a move past, and he has. So the Frenchman moves up into 5th and straight back on it. I mean, the pace from Lecour has been really, really good tonight. I mean, he's already made a mandatory pit stop. He's only got one more to go. So clearly he's running some fuel strategies that other drivers, they'll have to come in now. They'll be on heavier fuel. So maybe this is working for the Frenchman as Nathan Mifsud then comes into the pit lane with a wounded-looking GT Omega RPM Sports McLaren.
Yeah, seems like quite a few of the cars have been in the barriers and also in the walls tonight. Nathan Mifsud, no exception, after that incident between himself that he was cleared of any wrongdoing, courtesy of race controllers there. Boychev going up the inside. Ohak, that Lamborghini is definitely not enjoying itself around these fantastic corners here at Mount Panorama, as we are just over 17 minutes away from hitting the halfway point of this race, and the track temperature has started to slightly dissipate in terms of temperature. We hit a high of 34 degrees Celsius at when the server time hit 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And there is a fantastic shot of the iconic lettering on the side of the hill, just on the left-hand side of Skyline. As I think that was Yuri Stickforth that was going through Skyline and then through into the S's, as David Ohak not too far behind. Good evening to Luke Whitehead, who's been doing some great racing as of late, especially on SimGrid, where him and Hamada Adquizi are currently leading the third season of the SimGrid Sprint Cup, having secured 2 second-place positions. Oh, bless. Luke's got a new puppy now, Kieran. He's just mentioned in the chat.
Uh-oh, that's tight. That's worrying, because you can't let that puppy anywhere near your sim rig, that is for sure. The moment you do that, it is, I'm afraid it is curtains. You can't let that puppy distract you. That's I don't know it from experience, but I've seen it plenty of times from influencers around sim racing. But yeah, congratulations on the new puppy. I hope you give it a lovely name as well. That's one of the best parts of having a dog, is giving it a name that's just so out there.
All I'm going to say, the most involved dog when it comes to a sim race, a sim YouTuber, Jardier.
Yes.
You know, when he says, yeah, like dog mode, and the dog's like jumping on him when he's actually behind the wheel, as we're now with Renault Hessa getting closer to one of the Lexus cars. Now, that was Sheldon Muscat just up ahead. So these two are battling over 11th and 12th position. And, oh yeah, well, Luke's just said, my mate Callan O'Keefe has spoken to me about it. That's good that you got some friendly advice already, Luke. So, Sooks. Oh, that's not a bad name, actually, there. But we digress. We've got 45 minutes down and an hour and 15 to go here on World Pro Racing for the 2 hours casual race of Mount Panorama, the mountain, Bathurst. I got told off actually for my mispronunciation of Bathurst. Yep. By an Aussie, by a good friend, a very good friend, working with a French team in LMP2 and LMP3. Yeah, she said, no, you don't say Bathurst, you say Bathurst. That's how it's said, and that's from an Aussie. So
and that's final.
How it's said, that's fine.
Well, who better to give the advice than an Aussie who's obviously into racing and obviously knows the correct pronunciation. That's just how it is. That's the way it is. Silver Pyramids then in the Ferrari right on the back of Bourne in the sole BMW amongst the field then, as we make our way into one of the narrowest and trickiest parts of the circuit, going through the Dipper. We're riding on board now with Chris Bourne and the exiled CBO BMW. Does he get that car slowed down in time for Forrest's elbow? He does.
That was close between him and Pirmet, so now Muscat's right with them. Muscat to the left-hand side going down Conrad Straight, and then Reina Ressa not too far behind. Is Muscat going to shoot his way past Pirmet? He does, and Pirmet now gets back into the slipstream effect as they go through the exit of Conrad down into the chase, and Pirmet's trying to go up the inside there of Muscat. Does he make it through? He doesn't. He actually held onto the brakes pretty fastidiously there, and maintain the fact that he didn't want to have a coming together with Sheldon Muscat. Harry Spears is now currently in 8th position. Oh, Luke's already asking about how many crashes have already happened in the race. Well, Pedro Gomez, you need to ask him, because he had a bit of a moment going through, I think it was, going through Reed Park. It's now Chris Bourne coming under fire from Sheldon Muscat. Muscat looking to do the business in the Lexus once again. So on the previous turn, previous few corners, he did so, and that was on Silver Pimetz coming through Conrod Straight. Now he's got past Chris Bourne, and that's on the run to Quarry Bend. So Muscat really showing a good turn of pace. And it's not all about the torque delivery here on these cars, Kieran, because if you have a bit of a torque monster like, say, the McLaren, if your name is Jordan Burroughs or Harry Spears, or you get like the Ferrari with Silver Pimetz, you've really got to watch it around this circuit here, because sometimes you do in those cars that have got a lot of high torque from those engines, those twin-turbo V8s no less. If you don't short shift at particular points in the circuit, it can actually spool up the rear tyres and cause you a massive traction headache.
Yeah, who'd have thought all that torque could backfire on you? But yeah, you've got to match that torque with the performance you put out on track. And it's so easy to do when you apply the power maybe a little bit too early. You certainly notice it in the rear tyres, that's for sure. Especially in those Ferraris. They look amazing, of course, but they have the ability to just bite when you're least expecting it. When you've just got yourself into that rhythm, you've got to be always wary of those high torque cars. But we're seeing Chris Bourne here managing to hold back Silver Pimetz then as we make our way onwards over the Conrod Straight. Now going through, and there's 2 positions for the price of 1 there. All the way through, because we've got Rissar who's right on the back of Pimetz. I wonder if he's going to try and move up the inside in towards the chase. No, he just decides to stay back. He says 1 position from Chris Bourne is enough for me for now, but he'll try and chase on for this one. So that puts Pimetz up into 9th place. It puts Rissar into 10th, and Chris Bourne, who was 9th place at the beginning of that section, falls to 11th in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, as we still have the top 3 so far. Dean Riley, Callum Corkery, Colin Corkery, and also Chris Pinchback. They have yet to serve their first mandatory pit stop. All drivers have to serve 2 pit stops. We're going to go to a replay here. Now that is, that's Nathan Mifsud getting a turnaround through Quarry Bend. And as they say, one good shove deserves another. So the Ferrari gets a little bit of a not a retaliation, but a little bit of a favour returned, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got it on drag action here. David O'Hack having to go the long way around. I think that was Nat Thomas who's made his way up there in the Audi, and it is up to 15th place now. David O'Hack has been in the wars in that Lamborghini, that's for sure. You can see a bit of front end damage, and I wonder if that's having an effect on the top speed of that car, because we've seen consistently down Mountain Straight and Conrod Straight is where people are finding that move past the Lamborghini of David O'Hack. I wonder if that's just a case of a little bit too much front splitter damage. Maybe it's not giving him the sort of performance he needs. Maybe there's a bit of damage that's causing drag somewhere down the line in that car, and unfortunately he's going to have to deal with that for the next 70 minutes.
Yeah, and out of the cars on this grid, the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo has the slowest top speed, but with the aerodynamic efficiency that 6.2 litre V8 naturally aspirated car has, once you get it going, you get that thing up to speed down Conrod Straight, there's no stopping that Affalterbach freight train at all. And neither the same with the Bentley, which has exactly the same top speed, 275 kilometers an hour, as Rissar now trying to close on Pimetz. And yeah, so the top 3 going for the graveyard stint, I would call it, especially when they've probably loaded up the cars full of fuel, decided to try and keep a bit of consistency. But I know for a fact that Riley and Pinchback have done thousands and thousands of hours of racing on Assetto Corsa Competizione, so they are no slouches. But Silver Pimetz just had a massive moment coming out of Hell Corner, and that allows Rainer Rissar to get up past him. And what's more, that was on the left-hand side of Mountain Straight as they go through into Quarry Bend, up the hill. So the climb starts now, and one of the biggest things here is that the majority of this field our twin-turbo V8. As Pirmets into the wall off of the cutting. Disaster for Pirmets, and there's Apostolakis. And Boychev not too far behind. Apostolakis glances the wall, trying to go around the outside of Pirmets, who absolutely clobbered the barriers. The car drifted to the right-hand side, and it's side-by-side going through Sorman. Oh, my goodness me. Pirmets has another moment there. And not just Apostolakis, and they're off of Skyline. He turns around on his own, and that allows Chris Bourne to get through. Disaster for Silva Pirmets. Massive moment going through the cutting, hitting the wall on the right-hand side, and then gets all crossed up, going through Skyline. That still, even though it's an hour and 7 minutes still to go, Pirmets can recover from that. If it was 7.5 minutes to go and Pirmets was fighting for the lead, his race would be over and done with right there and then.
I think in Chris Bourne's next pit stop, a change of overalls will be needed, because that was one scary moment for him. How on earth did he avoid the spinning Silva Pirmets then, who is dropping down the order then? Nat Thomas gets that position up. He now moves into 13th place. Pirmets then trying to get back up to speed, get back into that rhythm, which is so easy to knock yourself out of, and a little bit of oversteer on the exit there of the first part of the chase. Making his way now onwards towards the pit lane, then decides to peel off with 66 minutes left on the clock. He decides to serve his last mandatory stop, and we have seen cars going hours long into this race. We're seeing a battle here between Jordan Burrows, and I think that's Harry Spears, and it is, as we now make our way up towards the cutting. Jordan Burrows trying to hang on to that position, and we saw here Harry Spears about half an hour ago have a little bit of issue with some sort of hardware issue. He was turning right the whole time, stopped just short of Griffin's mount, and well, we see now how that has had an effect to his position, because it's put him all the way now down to 7th place, and he's got cars around him that have made the exact same amount of pit stops as he has. And it's Florent Lecour, you can see there, very early stop in this race for his first one, and is now the leader of those that have made at least one stop in this race. He's 15.1 seconds back from Pinchbeck, and that top three have yet to make a single stop in this race. Jordan Burrows, though, doing a sublime job at holding back Harry Spears as they now make their way once again onto Conrad Straight. Will Spears this time have an advantage? It's two McLarens doing battle here as we head down Conrad Straight, running on board then with Harry Spears and the Miku Time McLaren. Does he think about a move? No, you can see he's holding back here. He's not willing to try a move just yet. But you can see how much that toe does in top speed. He's trying to try and go around the outside, going in towards the chase. It gives him the inside for the next corner, as long as he has enough space there. Harry Spears, can he get that move done and dusted? Yes, he can. Great move there from Harry Spears. Jordan Burrows isn't done with that position as we head into Murray's corner, but Harry Spears in the 285 moves now up into 6th place. Really nice move there.
Make that 5th, because Chris Pinchbeck is the first of the top three that didn't serve a pit stop. He's now in for fuel as the number 43. But yeah, when they went side by side into the chase, I thought Harry Spears had got that move done. But one of the other things that unsettled Jordan Burrows was that going through the latter part of the chase, he actually walloped the curb, and it put the left side wheels up into the air, a bit like Knight Rider back from the 80s. But that unsettled the car. But to still see them give enough racing respect and enough racing room, hats off to the pair of them right there and then. So Dean Riley still leading. We're on lap number 28 of this race with an hour and 4 minutes and 15 seconds left to go. And Ivalo Boychev coming under fire from Evangelos Apostolakis in the battle of the Lexuses. That is for 9th. That's for 10th and 11th respectively. Nathan Mifsud is keeping himself out of trouble at the meantime. He's already done one pit stop, and also the good thing is he's repaired the damage on the front of that McLaren 720S, because there was a massive panel gap between the front bumper and also the front panel on that car. So he repaired the damage. He's down in 16th position. Rounding out the top 20, we saw Wojciech Neuwirth in the number 62R Motorsport colours for the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Good old school beefy Aston Martin racing pedigree right there. David Ohak is now about to be passed by the leader. That is Dean Riley from Sim Sport Solutions, Riley just trying to do his level best. Now, one of the biggest things here, you can see a little bit that he's in map 2. So to me, that means that Dean Riley has gone for more than just a Sunday afternoon stroll here at Mount Panorama, Kieran. He's actually using it as a part of his strategy, because if you're on map 1, I think, if memory serves me correctly, you're going full throttle. You're going 115%.
It would make sense that, he's almost done an hour on this first stint, so it would make sense for him to go longer into this race and give himself 2 shorter stints. Just sort of less fuel on board towards the end of the race. Nat Thomas then we saw get the move done there on Bourne. Silver Pyramids then under pressure from, I believe that's Peter Dombre. Dombre still yet to make one more stop. Silver Pyramids has completed all of his mandatory stops with just over an hour to go, so he's leaving his long stint presumably till the end of the race. I don't think he scheduled it that way. He's been slightly in the wars and in the walls in this one, so he's had to change his strategy on the fly, but nevertheless he's still in this race. He's still doing a job out here, and finishing a race at Bathurst is well worth the rewards you sow. As Harry Spears has come into the pit lane, so too has Arena Rassar. Silver Pyramids then under pressure from Dombre as we once again make our way down Conrad Straight. As we make our way towards the chase, we've got the right-hander first. We're going side by side between the two of them. No, Pyramids moves to the left to take the racing line. And in towards the chase we go. Pyramids then making it clear he's not going to make this an easy battle for Peter Dombre.
Very much the case. 90 seconds until we hit halfway here on World Pro Racing for the 2 hours of Mount Panorama Casual Race GT3 on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform. So at the moment, it is still Dean Riley leading the way, as memory serves us correctly. Don't forget to head to World Pro Racing, as now Colin Corkery in the number 9 Aston Martin has now pitted from 2nd position. Dean Riley making his way down into Forest Elbow. And Dean Riley, for the last couple of months or so, since Sim Sports Solutions created their own racing team, they have stuck with Mercedes Power. Silver Pyramids now trying to get past, that is Lygretsen just up ahead in the number 52 and running in the AF Corse livery. That has been that particular colour scheme has been used by the likes of Sam Bird, James Collado, Davide Rigon, Miguel Molina, to name but just a few drivers as well. But you can just see how hard they are pushing, because Pyramids wanting to get past Lygretsen. Preston very, very quickly. Don't try and do that through Skyline. Well, Lygreston gets out of the way rather quickly, and Pyramids nearly comes a cropper into the wall, going through the dipper. That's not where you want to have a moment. But now we are officially at half-time here on the race itself, here on World Pro Racing. Myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Kieran McGinley will be back in just a couple of moments' time as we go a bit immersive here with a few adverts from some of our commercial partners. Welcome back to the continuing coverage of the 2 hours of Mount Panorama here on World Pro Racing. Alex Goldschmidt and Kieran McGinley back with you. Kieran, track temperature has now been something that's really caught my eye over the last sort of 5 minutes during that ad break. We're down 7 degrees Celsius in total as the server time now hits 5:42 p.m. down to 27 degrees. And I think that's going to be one of two things, especially when we get to the points where drivers have made their final mandatory pit stop. They'll be out on cold tyres, as that looks to be the number 44 of Florent Lacour, who's just served, with 54 minutes on the clock remaining, his second and final mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, as you were saying about the track temperature, of course, dropping away, that's going to have an effect on, you know, how the car reacts to how much grip there is out there. The drivers have got to adapt to how much grip there is out there. If you're wondering at home how the track is changing so quickly, it is on a 5 times time scale. So we started this race around about 10 past 12 in game time. So we are expecting to see a sort of dusk cycle, possibly even nighttime racing as well thrown into the mix. So it's far from over for the drivers in terms of adapting. Every single lap for these drivers is going to be different, more so than any other time. So they're just going to have to try and adapt as quickly as they possibly can.
Very true, and we've got just under 53 minutes of the race remaining here. So a big thank you to all of you that have liked and subscribed to the World Pro Racing channel, and also those watching on Twitch, also on Facebook, and also our viewers on TVM Sports in Malta, motorsport.tv, and esports television. And Dean Riley still leading. He's got about a 33-second advantage at this particular moment over Sheldon Muscat, who has now he's definitely got himself into the thick of things here. He's got one more pit stop to make, and he's in second position in the Emil Frey Lexus racing car. Now Emil Frey brought in a non-work supported Jaguar XKRS GT3 and then switched to Lexus, but Lexus as of this season have decided to get rid, well, they'll give customer support, but they won't have any works-backed entries anymore in sports car racing, which is a real shame because the Lexus RCF in its own way has had plenty of pedigree over the last few seasons since its introduction.
Yeah, it really has, and it's always a shame when you hear that the teams going forward don't have any manufacturer backing, but that's the decision that the manufacturers have to make. If they have to run independently, then I'm sure they will find their way through, as Sheldon Muscat here tries to find his way through all of this traffic and now making his way all the way through the S's and Skyline, not necessarily in that order. We've got a replay here. See, this is heading our way in towards, there you can see, in towards Forest's Elbow, and the car was just simply not having it. Actually snapped right before it was going to turn into that corner. So I think that was Pyramids. I'm not entirely sure. Couldn't quite see the car number from that angle. However, it was a Ferrari, and whosever Ferrari it was just absolutely not having that corner whatsoever. So finding himself into the wall. It's Tom McEwen.
Yeah, it was Tom McEwen. I noticed it was very much like the very, very deep Rosso red that Ferrari used on their Formula One cars. I think it was around about 2008, if memory serves me correctly. So McEwen had a massive moment. Now, Ewing's had a moment, but I don't think it was him. I'm wondering Joachim in the number 673 is in the Nissan, but yeah, that could have been McEwen, because that paint scheme, you can tell by the front of the car, that's had a massive hit on the front, and I'm sure that Tom McEwen's steering wheel is not tracking from 3 to 6, it's probably tracking closer to 3 to 9, rather 12 to 3 in that sort of respect.
Yeah, it's not going to be a nice handling car, that's for sure. As looking at the top of the field, the top 6, apart from Apostolakis, who's just entered the pit lane now, that will then leave us with the top 5, who have yet to pit in this race. We've got Nat Thomas as well, yet to stop. Laurent Lacour has completed all of his stops with just under 50 minutes to go in this race. So definitely going for a longer stint towards the end of this race in the hopes that he can get himself up the order towards the end of the race. It's worked so far because he's been right up and, at the pointy end of the field when that overlap happened and now be hoping for more of the same. What he's got to rely on is little amount of traffic and not too much battling for his strategy to work. And we've got to see here, does Apostolakis rejoin ahead of Florent Lecour? We'll have to check in just a short couple of seconds before we find that out. Meanwhile, we've got Chris Pinchbeck here, and he's got Nat Thomas right behind him as we now make our way through these long left-handers now, as we make our way through in towards McPhillamy Park, all the way down now through Skyline and then down the S's here. And of course, as we said before, Skyline is just a corner. You cannot see the apex of the next corner. You've got to be brave and hope that it's there when you turn in. As we make our way once again descending.
Oh, Apostolakis. Sorry to cut across you there, Kieran. Apostolakis, I think, is the first driver to come under foul by the track limits warning on the software here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, because the Greek driver has got a drive-through penalty. First one of the evening, and we still have 48.5 minutes of this race to go. Good evening to Dean Riley's good friend at Sim Sports Solutions. Said, come on, Dean, great to see him pulling a great lead. Now, I wondered why it was not a technical issue for Harry Spears. It's actually physical. Harry Spears has retired from the race due to a significant amount of back pain. So that's why I would hazard a guess. That's why he pulled over to the right-hand side. I'm sure that, you know, these drivers are pushed, you know, the likes of Harry Spears, who, you know, does do a lot of competing. He was in the Sprint Cup round 2 last night at Misano, and that was an hour-and-a-half race split between 2 drivers, and he's gone to try and do a 2-hour race here. I think Harry is doing the right thing, resting up, get that back checked out, and get himself ready for the next race he's got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, he gave us a really good start to the race, didn't he? He was absolutely commanding at that point, and, you know, you do have to look out for number 1. And if he feels that he needs to retire because of that pain, well, I'm glad he's putting himself first. He can race again another day. That's the most important thing. Wish him all the best, and hopefully we see him back on track very, very soon. Sheldon Muscat here in the number 14 Emil Fryer Lexus racing car, making his way now through in towards Forest's Elbow. Be interesting to see the gap between himself and Riley, our race leader. We'll have to come towards a timing line to find that out, as we've got 2 Ferraris going side by side. We've got the Greston here, and that's not for position, as that's going to be blue flags waving all the time. They're going to go side by side anyway. Why not? Through we go, just about giving each other the right amount of room as we make our way now in towards the chase. And Greston there just about doing his best there to make it difficult, but not impossible. Nat Thomas then, I believe he is now trying to make his way through. Now he's up into 5th place, as he's got an Aston Martin right behind him.
That's Lecour.
It is Lecour.
Yes,
So
Lecour is now charging forward using the maximum 700 newton meters of that 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine behind that clamshell bonnet of that. And to be honest with you, one of the things about design on cars these days, you know, the V12 Vantage, you know, personified the 2000s, but with how the V8 Vantage now looks, as old Thomas drifts wide coming out of Murray's corner. Lecour was very close on the apex there, and Lecour's looking to try and use a bit of that savoir-faire to get past Thomas going up Mountain Straight. But you know, the V8 Vantage these days, you know, still has that lovely quintessential Aston Martin DNA very much at its core.
It really, really does, and Lecour is using it to its limit and beyond. I mean, he's absolutely on a charge. I did wonder that he gained a lot of time on Nat Thomas. That is down to pace, but also I think Nat Thomas made a mistake at some point in that lap, as Farhan gets well out of the way of drivers behind, currently running in 18th place in that hypervelocity racing team McLaren. There's David Ohak there. He's going to be under pressure from Apostolakis, who served his drive-through penalty. And now we make our way on towards the chase. Greek driver trying to find a way past David Ohak there, but no way through in towards the chase for now. As we've got this picture-in-picture, we've got the rear wing of David Ohak looking back at Apostolakis as we make our way in towards the final corner, Murray's corner. and onto the start-finish straight. Onwards towards Hell Corner once again. I think David O'Hack has just about held on for at least a couple more corners, but we've got a long straight of Mountain Straight coming up, and if we've seen a weakness in David O'Hack's Lamborghini, it's straight at the moment.
Yeah, 1.1 kilometres up Mountain Straight. Here, as we are on board with the Lexus RCF GT3, the number 2 of fidget spinners, Evangelos Apostolakis. I do wonder. I mean, one of the funniest ones, which was at the Nightmaster 2 this past Tuesday, Samir Foch, Twitch streamer extraordinaire, had Code Brown Racing Team on his Ferrari. There is definitely a Code Brown moment there for Apostolakis, and he literally has tagged the wall. And was that Silver Pimett's doing sideways moment in sympathy? I think he saw Apostolakis having that massive moment, and then decided to put the anchors on, and the back end of the Ferrari stepped out. So Apostolakis is off, as compromised Pimett's, who's also gone off ever so slightly with 2 wheels on the grass. That was coming through Silman Park, I believe. So yeah, definitely Code Brown is a moment that we saw early on for the BMW, and that was of Chris Bourne. But I think Apostolakis has just needed a change of underwear there. We're going to have a look at the replay here now. This is that's Reina Rissar, I believe, and that will be Ligreston just up ahead. Oh, now Ressa tried to go up the inside, and the Ferrari gets a little bit of a tap for its troubles. That's going to be one that we're going to very much leave to race control there, and it looks like Jordan Burrows is also part of the number 3.
Yeah, sad to see that one as he comes into the pit lane. So he was having a decent running within the top 10, but for whatever reason he's come back to the pit lane. Hopefully we'll see him back out there. There's Reina Rissar in the EuroRC.com Bentley. He now makes his way onwards once again. He's got a Ferrari in his sights, but that won't be for position. I think that's going to be, I think that's the number 20 car of Abaya there. Could be wrong. However, there's Coleman Corkery in the Island Racing car. Number 9, Aston Martin, currently 3rd place. And just trying to keep himself to himself at the moment, putting that pace in. What we've got to see as well is Florent Lecour has really closed in on Nat Thomas and battling away for that 5th place. There is Florent Lecour, there is Nat Thomas, and he's been behind him for a couple of laps now, and that equates to more than 5 minutes. So this won't do Lecour's strategy the world of good if he can't find a way past Nat Thomas. He's going to have to wait now, the worst case scenario, until Nat Thomas comes into the pits, but there's no telling how much time he would have lost to Dean Riley, who's in the lead.
Yeah, that's very true, because I would probably say, I mean, the gap between Riley and Muscat at times has shown, well, it's 40 seconds. So when you think about it, Florent Lecour is effectively 2/3 of a lap behind, or close to 2/3 of a lap behind, the current race leader, Dean Riley, who's on lap 38 of this 6.213 kilometre circuit. There's Sheldon Muscat, as he makes his way through. McPhillamy, Sulman, and a little bit of a brush with the wall there through McPhillamy for Sheldon Muscat as he goes through. Oh, now that is not what you want. He went straight on there after Skyline and going through into the S's. Now that, in the bigger sense of the word, I think the tiredness is starting to set in. Now, Mount Panorama here, Kieran, is a very, very demanding circuit. There is only so much that your mental and physical psyche will be able to put up with, and you know, the best respite that you can have here at Mount Panorama is when you go into the pits.
Yeah, and that's so accurate there for sure. And yeah, even when you're on a straight, you've got to keep looking in your mirrors because it's such a narrow circuit. If you've got blue flags, if you've got to put a lap on the driver ahead, there simply really is no rest around this circuit. So you've got to keep your wits about you, and when you try and keep your wits about you for this entire time, it does wear on you slightly. We've got the number 2 car off the track there, but we're seeing Ligreston there being passed by a Ferrari there. That wasn't for position, that was just to put a lap on Ligreston there as he makes his way through. But you're totally right, as we see him get onto the grass there on the exit of the chase, running down towards Murray's Corner. But one thing I have noticed then is that since we've been back from our commercial break, around about 12-13 minutes, the track has dropped further from 27 degrees to 22 degrees centigrade, so it's dropping even further now. And that could have an effect on the drivers as well. Not only fatigue, but if the track temperature starts to drop away, that means in theory there's less grip available for all these tyres. They start to get a bit cooler. It takes a lot more effort to keep the heat in those tyres, and if you bundle that with the fatigue, that can end in it's a recipe for a not so good race as Nat Thomas comes into the pits and finally releases Florent Lecour.
Yep, Florent Lecour has 39 minutes to try and push like a devil possessed up through Mountain Straight and also around the rest of the 6.2 kilometre circuit. Apostolakis, now this is a replay we're seeing here, coming down Conrod Straight. Oh, and goes off at Conrod. Oh, and smacks the barriers on the right-hand side. That car is very much limping around. It crabs, it then twitches. You can see that steering is not exactly 100% tracking true. And I did see that Apostolakis actually has parked it back in the pit lane. He's trying to reverse the car, but it's stuck against the wall on the left corner as we go back to Lecour. And Lecour absolutely threading the limits of adhesion. Nathan Mifsud, who was nearly on the naughty step a bit earlier on in the race after his tangle with David Ohak, rounding out the top 9, still has one more pit stop to make in the number 19 GT Omega RPM Esports McLaren 720S. But at the moment, Dean Riley is being consistent. And that's all. You talked about this. You broached on this subject earlier on before we went racing, Kieran. Dean Riley is absolutely manhandling not only the Mercedes and the rest of the field, but also the circuit here at Mount Panorama. He's got a comfortable lead, and I think that even with his last pit stop, I'm just going to have a look at what his fuel map is. Again, he's on map 2. He's not using the full potential of the Mercedes. If he went to map 1 after his second pit stop, I can guarantee you this: if Sheldon Muscat was ahead of him, Riley would hunt him down like a wolf hunting its prey.
I mean, you can see there that he's just breaking away from Sheldon Muscat. 42 seconds is that last gap between the two drivers. They are almost a timing loop apart. That's why it disappears, because for the brief moment you can see the gap between them. Dean Riley goes over yet another timing loop line. So that's why you can't get an accurate reading on how far away Muscat is for the majority of this lap. That's how far ahead he actually is. You got Corkery there in third place as well. We're watching Pinchbeck here in fourth place, and he's got Lecour behind. I think he's a couple of seconds back yet, but you've got that V12 sounding Aston Martin in the distance. I mean, it's a great sound, that one, isn't it? Fantastic. It's so distinct, and gives the time of the GT cars years ago when they used to have those V12 engines and just let them rip. Just such a great sound to hear.
It is, and I mean, I'm glad that in some respects some manufacturers have had the intestinal fortitude, two of my favourite words when it talks about having a bit of guts and gumption. Audi and Lamborghini, obviously, it's pretty much the same power plant, but very different animals in terms of their aerodynamic properties and the way they look and the way they handle. Are the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo and the Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo, both powered by a 5.2 litre V10 naturally aspirated engine. And in terms of the power plant, well, the Audi pushes out an additional 12 horsepower in comparison with the Lamborghini. Who would have thought that an Italian thoroughbred like that would have been given a bit of the cold shoulder by its its owner, because obviously Lamborghini is part of the Volkswagen group.
It is indeed, which means it's closely related to Audi. I mean, obviously it's not bread and butter, that one, but of course, being under that sort of Volkswagen brand, it allows it to, have that sort of family behind it. But yeah, a thoroughbred like Lamborghini, it's you expect these cars to be dangerous in a sense, dangerous to handle, just scary to drive, but it just looks like the Lamborghini with years gone by has become much more tame for these drivers to handle. And I think the fact that the Lamborghini was so out of control to drive, so difficult to master, was part of its charm. But I still salute those who decide to drive behind the Lamborghini, because even after all these years, it's still quite a scary car to drive.
Yeah, just ask Jardier. He's actually driven one of those in real life. I think he drove the Super Trofeo version. courtesy of Lamborghini. Jardy 8, another one of the. We've mentioned him twice in this broadcast. So that's a moment for the buyer going through McPhillamy Park 360 for the GT Omega RPM Esports driver. That was definitely change of underwear required for Kirsten Abaya in the number 20. That is not where you want to have it go wrong. Now, I remember a few years ago, there was a 488, I think it was a Japanese entry that ended up going off at the same part on the track and actually went headfirst into the barriers off of Skyline. Massive cloud of dust, or I think it went backwards onto the barriers. GT3's very much at home here at Mount Panorama. We've seen the likes of Craig Lowndes get into a Ferrari. The late Alan Simonson, well known around these parts. For the Liquid Molly Bathurst 12 Hours, Alan Simonson has been posthumously named as the name that is on the pole position trophy for the Liquid Molly Bathurst 12 Hours, because Alan used to get in a car and he drove it like he stole it around here at Mount Panorama. Very, very much loved by not just the Australian sports car community, but the sports car community after his sudden passing at Tetra Rouge at Le Mans back in 2013. So, LaCour still doing his level best to move forward, and he's closing on Pinchbeck. The gap now down to 20.1 seconds, as we have just under 33 minutes of the race. Moment for LaCour. He went slightly off to the right-hand side on the mountain straight. That's definitely not what you want to do around these parts here, Kieran.
I've been in that position before where you might get a little bit distracted in that cockpit as well, and what you think is a straight, you have the wheels slightly turning left, and that's something you've got to get out of your system very, very quickly there. LaCour has got away with that one. I can tell you for sure now that if I find myself onto the grass like that, I panic and snap the steering wheel. So at least there's a little bit of experience behind there. There's Stickfort we're watching here. That back end was not staying in check there. Does he keep it out of the wall? No, he does not. So Stickfort then just having a little bit of trouble, not necessarily applying the power there. I think he just took a little bit too much speed into the entry of that left-hander, and the rear tyres there over-rotated, and he had no chance of saving that one.
Yeah, he's got to be careful with over-rotation, as now Nathan Mifsud comes into the pits. Sheldon Muscat is now, I think he's just he's not exiting the pit lane. I think that might have been possibly... Yeah, I think that probably was him. No, here is Sheldon Muscat. He's in the Lexus. My apologies there. It was a Ferrari just exiting the pit lane. There's Silver Pirmets.
That's for position with Rainer Ressar.
Yeah, he's trying to go around the outside of Hell Corner, and Ressar just went up the inside. Just behind them, that is Coleman Corkery, as that looks to be the number 19 of Nathan Mifsud. McLaren 720S GT3 that's just come out of the pit lane. That was Kirsten Abaya. That is now coming through Murray's Corner. Across the start-finish line. Currently in 18th position is Abaya, as we now head into the final quarter. Or as the Americans would say in a baseball game, it's bottom of the ninth. But we're now going to go to a replay. Now, this is from earlier on. This is... Lygreston in the 52 AF Corsa car. That is out of Forest Elbow. So Lygreston, that front end again looking rather second hand. And Lygreston, I think that is his race done, because several drivers the temperature's now coming down again. It's come down a total of 13 degrees Celsius since we started an hour and a half ago, but on terms of the server, it's been 7.5 hours, and darkness is rather quickly flooding its way here to the circuit.
Yeah, it really is. I think that was a case of Lygreston there just deciding enough was enough for tonight, as he's been in the wars with that Ferrari. We've got there's the 89 car of Farhan there also. I think he was just pulling to the side to let other cars through, which not ideal on a narrow straight such as Conrad Straight, but each to their own. At least everyone has got through past him. There is Nat Thomas we're watching there in the Omega E Racing team. But yeah, I do think that's a case of Lagreston deciding to call it a night here and enjoy what's left of his Friday evening, I'm sure. He's had a tough one, but I think he's become our 6th retirement of this race. If we don't count Apostolakis, who's still in that pit lane, I think he's retirement number 7.
Yeah, after that moment off of Conrod Straight, I think that Lexus was very, very much terminally damaged. There's Alan Gooch in the Team Valkyrie car. He's still running in 21st position, as that was the Nissan GTR Nismo GT3, the 2008 version, with Yuri Stickforth behind the wheel of it. Still under full green flag conditions here. Just under 29 minutes remaining on the clock here on World Pro Racing for the 2 hours at Mount Panorama. GT3 action on Assetto Corsa Competizione in full flight. Dean Riley continues to lead on lap number 44 of the race. Coleman Corkery rounds out the top 2 with Chris Pinchbeck in the number 43 Aston Martin, rounding out the podium at the moment as it stands. But trying to close him down in the number 44 Aston Martin will be Florent Lacour. Sheldon Muscat in the Lexus rounds out the top 5. Chris Bourne now going side by side through into the chase, and here comes the assailant that is Mr. David Ohak up the inside with the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, and he makes the BMW look rather tame there going through the chase. Ohak really had the measure of Bourne going through right there.
Yeah, he really did. And I think with these lower track temperatures as well, David Ohak's car has come alive and he's absolutely reacted in the right way. He's really doing a good job. Had a tough start to this race. We discussed how maybe he's lacking a bit of straight line speed in that car. Perhaps in a pit stop he's managed to have some repairs to that front splitter. Whatever it's done, whatever he's done, whatever setup is on the car is really working in these lower temperatures. That's going to give him the world of a boost of confidence, and he might be able to push on here for an even better position. Here's Pinchbeck here in 3rd place right now. Top 3 are still yet to make one more mandatory stop in this race. Dean Riley, Coleman Corkery and Chris Pinchbeck. So in a sense, Florent Lacour, who is, well, he's classified as 1 lap down. It's because he hasn't come across the start-finish line just yet. But he will be looking to push as hard as he possibly can out there in order to take advantage of this. There is Rainer Ressar then, letting one of the Aston Martins through. I think it was Corkery there he was letting through, obviously under blue flag conditions. But Ressar has been in all sorts of drama in this race. And I think on the whole, I think he's enjoyed himself out there. It looks like he's enjoyed himself.
And he's in a different car than we would normally see him in. He's either in a McLaren, now he's in the Bentley. And the Bentley looking rather pretty strong in his eyes, as we've got, that is the number 90 of Tom McEwing. That is off of McPhillamy Park. And, oh, it's backwards. So McEwing has brought out the yellow flags going through McPhillamy and then into the approach for Skyline. And Tom McEwing waiting to rejoin. He's got to make sure it's safe. Yellow flags will mean no overtaking. And Tom McEwing, his race has gone from bad to really bad, as there is the 62 V12 Vantage, Aston Martin Wojciech Neuwirth getting past, and with that glorious soundtrack from that 5.7 litre V12, 6-speed sequential gearbox. Oh, that's just absolutely glorious to the eardrums, isn't it, Kieran, that noise?
That's Tom McEwing having another moment there. Into the wall he went. We just saw the end of that one. So this is going to be Tom McEwing's initial incident. So let's see what happens here. Turns in, clips the curb, yet gets a little bit airborne, and the car just gets unbalanced, and that's a mighty whack into the back end there. When well, you're in one of those cars, you'd rather have the back end be the crumple zone for you there. But Tom McEwing, another moment for him, another battering to that rear end, and he's now having to play the long waiting game for cars to go through so that he can rejoin safely. So in a couple of corners, his race has gone from really bad to even worse than that. So really, really unfortunate for him there. I think he is starting to move that car again. Yes, he is, down the Conrad straight. But yeah, that will not do his confidence the world of good.
Okay, right, let's have a quick return back to race control. Let's have a quick catch up very soon with our race director, Adrian Figalo. But also, one of the things that I've noticed. So, Adrian, it's been a pretty easier evening than the usual times when we've had conversations.
Yeah, sure. Actually, we're quite happy how the race is going.
Yeah, so the driving standards, I think the drivers definitely took notice, but we've had quite a few retirements this evening. We did talk about this briefly at the beginning, that Mount Panorama can bite, and several drivers, including like Tom McEwing, have just had massive moments. Apostolakis had a massive moment coming out of Conrod. It's not been easy this evening, and it's really just shows how tough Mount Panorama can truly be.
Yeah, sure. Mount Panorama is a tough circuit, you know what I mean? But as I already said, it's we're quite happy with the behavior, obviously enough, of the drivers. The incidents that actually happened between cars were incidents that we didn't need to take any action on them. So it was either a racing incident or obviously of a 50-50 situation, which comes down to racing incident. So yes, it's been a quiet evening actually, which we didn't expect on Mount Panorama.
Well, Adrian Figallo, thanks again, and we'll speak to you very, very soon indeed. Hopefully you and George have another 23 minutes of this race, as now we head back to the circuit itself, and Dean Riley has Florent Lacour breathing down his neck, because Riley, in the meantime, had actually served his last mandatory pit stop. And with the track temperature at 8:17 p.m. on the server, 20 degrees Celsius, Riley is now struggling a little bit on cold tyres. He's going to have to get them up to temperature very, very quickly. And I think here, Kieran McGinley, Florent Lacour smells blood, as there is Yori Stickforth. Stickforth on the right-hand side of the screen. He's got a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. Riley now coming under fire. I think Florent Lacour is the real danger driver here this evening here at Mount Panorama.
Everyone's eyes will be on Lacour here as we now make our way onwards through Quarry Bend, and then up the hill we'll go towards the cutting. But Dean Riley there just perfected that timing of the pit stop really, really well, just to emerge in front of the Frenchman there. We saw Florent Lacour here try something different, pit earlier than everybody else, and if he got enough clean air, it's worked a treat. He had a lighter car in all of those stints, so in theory he was always going to try and battle for this lead here. But Dean Riley has got a real battle on his hands. I wonder if, for now at least, these two drivers try and work together, because they've still got the two drivers ahead of them who have yet to make their last mandatory stop in the race. That's Corkery and Pinchbeck. I wonder if the focus should be to get past the two of them and then focus on each other, as we've got a back marker here just to spice things up just a little bit there. Always a nervous moment when you come across a back marker in that part of the track.
Whoa, that was a Ferrari that really needed to get out of the way rather sharpish, and did so. I think that was Ligreston in the 52 AF Corsa entry that they managed to get past. Dean Riley managed to make that gap in that very wide-haunched Mercedes AMG GT3 as they go through nighttime now, coming in thick and fast. Server time nearly 8:30 in the evening here at Mount Panorama, with 21 minutes to go on the clock. Riley and Lacour battling over the final step on the rostrum, which I fear very much, Kieran, is going to be the lead of this race as soon as Corkery and Pinchbeck opt to take their final pit stops, as now the floodlights are well and truly ablaze here at Bathurst.
Yeah, the track is bathed in a sea of light, so at least some of it is anyway. The rest of it will be lit up by these drivers' headlights, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of flashing headlights towards the end of this race, warning drivers that I'm coming through or I'm here, just be careful. But also as an intimidation tactic, we see it all often here, especially in GT racing. You just use those headlights just to try and gain any sort of advantage, try and put the driver off their normal racing line. But I tell you what, Riley and Lacour, this is going to be a battle that should be for the lead of the race. I mean, they are about 20 seconds behind Corkery at the moment, which we've seen here isn't too much of a gap. We saw that Lacour's gap was well over 40 seconds, but then again, you've got Riley. Oh, Lacour hits the wall there. going just onto the entrance in towards McPhilliby Park. That could be crucial there to allow Dean Riley to get ahead, and lots of sparks there from that Eversia Esports Aston Martin. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the maybe there's some damage to that car.
Well, there's sparks that have been flying from that rear diffuser on that Aston Martin. And I think Lacour was pushing way, way too hard. I mean, he caught the wall going through Sulman Park, and he's lost a little bit of time to Dean Riley. And this is where things can get really, really interesting. I mean, the thing is that Pinchbeck is about 26 seconds ahead of this battle. Or maybe make that about 25 or so seconds. So Pinchbeck has to make that ultimate decision. Does he wait for Corkery to blink first, or does he decide to bite the bullet and go, you know what, actually I want to try and secure myself at the very least, possibly second or third position if I can. But if Pinchbeck has fueled that car and only puts in a litre or two of fuel, if he put tyres on in his first pit stop, he'll have done a very, very good strategy call, as now as Renaud Rissart is being given the blue flags. As you can just see, the headlights ablaze as the sunset is starting to dissipate into the distance here at Mount Panorama. And yeah, this is going to get rather interesting. I mean, Pinchbeck now is dropping time, but that is because Rissart is just up ahead of him. And what Pinchbeck is trying to do is just keep the car on the tarmac. That's the best thing that you can do right now. Don't push 100% until you know that you need to. And now that Rissart's unleashed Pinchbeck, Pinchbeck can start winding up the wick on that V8 Aston Martin.
You wonder as well if the interior lighting of his car just shows a bit of mood lighting, perhaps. He's nice and cool in his position at the moment as we make way down in towards Forest's Elbow, riding on board here with Pinchbeck as he's 9.5 seconds back from the race leader. But as you were pointing to, what is that last pit stop going to be like? It might literally be a litre of fuel. It might be a splash and dash to get them to the end, which is going to result in a much shorter pit stop than the likes of Riley and Lacour have had to endure in this race. Lacour, meanwhile, falling now 2 seconds back from Riley, so there's definitely a little bit of damage to that car then. Lots of sparks being thrown up into the night sky. Great to see that the drivers are running with such a low ground setup here, trying to run the car as close to the ground as you dare. And Lacour has picked himself up a drive-through penalty, and that's going to put a spanner into the works of any podium position that he may have had on the cards.
Yeah, that I think now that Corkery and Pinchbeck will be breathing a sigh of relief, because that drive-through will cost Florent Lacour probably the best part of about 30 seconds, which will put him outside of the top 5. Says Jean-Pierre Joachim in the Valkyrie Sport Nissan GTR Nismo GT3. And there is Corkery, as now Lacour decides to serve his drive-through penalty. Great strategic call there by Lacour, because he just wants to serve it, get it out of the way, and then just knuckle down. He'll be kicking himself a little bit about that, because, you know, it's 3 track cuts, then the 4th one gets you a drive-through. Lacour will want to do a bit of damage limitation and get that pit stop out of the way. Then he can fully concentrate on what's going to happen. So this is Alan Gooch, and this is going down Conrad, I believe. We'll just keep an eye on this for the moment. And bouncing off the rev limiter. Oh no, now this was actually into Quarry Bend, and he tags the wall. So missing the braking point, I think, a little bit there. Outbraked himself, so the Lexus RCF GT3 ended up tagging the left wall through Quarry Bend there. And that I think that Lexus is now very much, well, he's crawling to a halt. Oh my goodness, and was that David Ohak just going past him as well? But yeah, this has now really changed everything, because Corkery and Pinchbeck, they're now nearly 10 seconds apart. Corkery, I think, nearly got a track cut there going through the chase. These dark conditions, look, it's absolutely pitch black there, especially going down Conrod Straight and into the chase. Track temperature has now dropped a whopping 15 degrees, and now we have 15 minutes of the race remaining. It's now time to put up or shut up here at Mount Panorama.
Definitely. And Corkery and Pinchbeck, of course, have got to serve one more stop in this race. That is a mandatory stop they have to make. Nat Thomas, meanwhile, I think that's the BMW of Bourne right behind him as they now battle their way up the hill we go in towards Griffin's Mountain Reed Park as we ride on board with that rear wing. Only briefly, though, because we want to see Nat Thomas there hitting the wall on the rise up there. And it took a battering, that front left-hand quarter panel. Took an absolute battering there. I wonder if that car's actually going to be okay for Nat Thomas as he makes his way now towards Skyline. Then down through the S's there. The car snaps on him. Showers of sparks will cover the car of Bourne there as we make our way through the dipper. And now onwards towards Forest's Elbow as Nat Thomas is struggling here. That pressure from Bourne seems to be working. Bourne here might as well turn up the wick. Get more pressure on Nat Thomas.
You know what I think what has happened? That was more than just a glancing blow for the Audi. I think the upright, the suspension, has had some damage. And I won't be at all surprised if that also has compromised the steering. Ivalo Boychev has now pitted for the final time, the second and final time. We're on board with Nat Thomas. Let's just have a look at the steering inputs. Now that car, I think he got away with that one. I really think he did. If it was tracking to the left, that car would have had more significant damage. That was a glance and a half. I think Nat Thomas got away with it. You were right with that there, Kieran. But hearing this 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 howling from behind the driver's point of view right now, this car pushing out 552 brake horsepower, 550 newton meters of torque, but the BMW M6 GT3, the 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 produced directly in association with the road car, round the outside of Quarry Bend. Chris Bourne trying to get round the outside of Nat Thomas. They clash front wing panels there, but Chris Bourne, with an audacious move through Quarry Bend, manages to get it stopped in front of Nat Thomas for the cutting. That was absolutely ludicrous here in these nighttime conditions with less than 12.5 minutes on the clock to go. Chris Bourne with the move of the night here, ladies and gentlemen.
It was bafflingly beautiful from Bourne. That's what I would sum it up with.
A bit of alliteration there, Mr. McGinley. Well put, young man.
The move that needed alliteration to show you how good it was. I mean, what a move from Chris Bourne there. Now up into 7th place. He will be replaying that on this stream and on his own accord again and again and again. I think he enjoyed that as much as we did.
I think that was definitely a case of Nat Thomas just quickly got served right there and then. However, the Audi could start fighting back, so it's Neuberg-Andorra versus Munich as the drivers make their way down Conrad Straight. But Chris Bourne at the moment has the legs on Nat Thomas. But will that Audi start getting a bit of pickup in the momentum of the slipstream going through into the chase? Not on this particular occasion, because the gap now will be probably just over a shade over half a second between the pair of them. It's just over 4/10 at the moment, but it looks like that handling characteristics of that Audi helping, as now we have, that's Jan Reiler in the number 333 R3 Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. He's making his way through into McPhillamy Park. Now through into Skyline as someone went a little bit exit stage right on the gravel going through into the approach onto Skyline. Now through the S's. Down the gearbox they go into the dipper. Sparks flying from the rear diffusers on these GT3 Leviathan race cars here as the nightfall well and truly in. Track temperature has dropped to 18 degrees Celsius. That's exactly the same as the ambient air temperature at the circuit. But the nighttime skies up ahead, Kieran McGinley, are very much clear. No cloud cover at all as Nat Thomas, trying to get around the outside, trying to return the favour on Chris Bourne. But Chris Bourne was having absolutely none of that.
No, absolutely not. Stays ahead though, but these two are going to be battling hammer and tong for the next 10 minutes. I can assure you of that one. And speaking of the final 10 minutes of this race, we still have Corkery and Pinchbeck still yet to make their last mandatory stop. It will literally be a splash and dash for the two drivers. Where will it let them emerge? going towards the back end of this race. Still, Nat Thomas wants to try and find a way through, just filling the mirrors of Bourne there with just some headlights there as he now makes his way on the exit of Forest Elbow, and now down Conrad Straight, getting a little bit of tow as well. That will help him with the slipstream as we go over the crest towards the chase there. But you can see Nat Thomas is actually falling behind the BMW slightly, so you can see there might be perhaps a little bit of splitter damage there, although he is running, I think that's mode 3 there, so it's a slower version of the car, of the engine. A little bit of dust up ahead chucked into the driver's windshields.
Well, that's his ABS setting, because he's on map 1 for fuel, and traction control is on top setting 1. I'd be interested to see what Chris Bourne is running, because Chris Bourne, now one of the Ferraris gets out of the way, so Chris Bourne, it looks like he's on traction control 6, ABS 2, map 1 for the fueling. So Chris Bourne and Nat Thomas have unleashed all the maximum horsepower and torque from their respective respective engines. 4.4 litre M-Power twin-turbo V8 from that BMW, and then the Audi 5.2 litre V10 producing 540 brake horsepower. But in terms of the weight differential, the BMW weighs 1,295 kilos and the Audi has a 60 kilo weight advantage. However, that sometimes doesn't mean anything here at Mount Panorama. It's, as you said earlier, Kieran, it is about bravery. And there are two drivers being very brave right now, because we've got 8 minutes to go. On lap 54 is another glance, this time on the right-hand side. That was going through McPhillamy. As, there's a Ferrari off in the front of them. And that, I think, might be Kirsten Abaya. Nearly goes back onto the track in front of Bourne and Thomas. That could have really split the pair of them right there and then. As Thomas now swarming all over the back bumper of Chris Bourne as they were going through into the dipper and then towards Forest Elbow. Jan Reiler in the 333, still staying where he is. David Ohak a little bit further behind. He's got a Ferrari, has Ohak in the Lamborghini. Ohak is a little bit further behind. There's Bourne. Thomas hasn't got the measure of him yet, but I think you said about splitter damage. I think that left front is compromised on that Audi. You know, yes, the steering might be right, but I've known it before where people have actually driven machinery back to the pits. There's been no sympathy given to any of this machinery here tonight. And I think Nat Thomas is driving with the wounded Audi.
Yeah, you bring cars to Mount Panorama, there is absolutely no mechanical sympathy whatsoever shown by the track, let alone the drivers, after 2 hours of trying to get the most out of them possible. Just over 6 minutes of this race left to go. Still Corkery and Pinchbeck yet to make their stops. I think they're going to leave it as late as they possibly can to make their splash and dash. I mean, Corkery's gone in towards Hell Corner, now making his way on towards the Mountain Straight, so he's clearly not interested in pitting just yet. Of course, they do have to make that stop, otherwise they will be disqualified from the race. I'm sure that the graphic next to their name will warn them of such, as Silver Pyramids makes a visit to the pit lane in the number 66 Flat Out Racing Ferrari. Looked heavily damaged, that car. The Estonian has really been in the wars and in the walls as well, as he looks to try and maybe repair that car and get it back out on track. Well, we hope so, to at least finish this race. You've got this far in, let's at least finish it as we go side by side. That was Nat Thomas, got the move.
Oh, that was brilliantly done. Thomas just timed it for perfection through Solomon Park, sent it up the inside of McPhillamy on Chris Bourne, who I think might have had a little bit of a melodrama of his own. But the biggest question that needs answering right now, Thomas in the barriers! Thomas in the barriers, and that was going through the dipper! Oh, he clattered with the left-hand side, and he's gotten away with that. But I think that Audi's really been damaged significantly. That car's going from left to right, and that's caused major problems and a spinner behind Kirsten Abaya. The attrition rate has gone through the roof here. Neuwirth has pitted, Pinametz has pitted, Lacour all the way down in 17th. But Pinchbeck is only 5.6 seconds behind Coleman Corkery. Riley is a further 14.1 seconds adrift of Pinchbeck in third place. We're down to the last 5 minutes. Nat Thomas, if he gets that Audi back home with that amount of obscene damage after whacking the left-hand side of the Audi again, and that was through one of the most difficult places to keep it together through the dip. Just look at how gingerly he is coming through Murray's corner. He is not taking any chances. He now knows it's about bringing that Audi back home. Let's have a look at the replay here. We're on board with Nat Thomas through Skyline, down into the braking zone, through into the S's, into the dipper. Oh, he just loses it. Bang! And he's hit the wall, and there goes Bourne up the inside. That was definitely a Mark Scafeism I just did there. And bang! Like literally, as soon as the supercar hits a barrier, it's like into the wall, and then bang! And we just had that with Nat Thomas.
He did. Well, he locked the brake. You saw there. As soon as that lock brake happened, there was nowhere else he was going other than that wall. It's so unforgiving, that section. But all Chris Bourne had to do was just drive at his own pace, at his own leisure, and let Nat Thomas make the mistake. That's exactly what happened. And Chris Bourne there has come out and emerged in 7th place. And now he'll just be looking to keep his own pace, keep his own wits about him. That gap to Nat Thomas, if that damage is seen to be believed, then he will start falling back. That amount of damage can't possibly be sustained for that much longer. Coleman Corkery then is leading in front of Pinchbeck here, but both of those drivers still have to yet to make a stop, and it's getting to that point now where it's either this lap or next lap. It can't possibly be any later.
I've seen it where races, Kieran, have actually been decided where the two leaders have come in when the last lap has been called, and then third place has come through unceremoniously and taken the victory with 30 seconds still on the clock remaining. Anything is possible, especially here in sports car racing. Coleman Corkery still leading on lap 56. There's Wojciech Neuwer, the only one that went old school with a V12 Aston Martin Vantage GT3, running in the R Motorsport colours, and also running with one of their normal signatory numbers, the number 62, as he makes his way through Reed Park, then into Solman, and then into McPhillamy with that absolutely that rip-roaring V12 sound echoing about the top of the hill here as he heads into Skyline. Now that's a true old steering wheel right there and then. Full good old Alcantara steering wheel as now Corkery pits on lap number 56, and so does Pinchbeck. Riley. Now, where is Riley? He's about to come through Murray's corner. So with just over 2.25 minutes remaining, there goes Dean Riley. He's going to get the lead. And there's the Mercedes. He's got through. And keep your eyes peeled for Sheldon Muscat in the 14 Lexus RCF GT3. There we go. He's through. There's Corkery. Now Pinchbeck. Yeah, it was a splash and dash for the two Aston Martins. And now it will be a battle royale, I feel here, Kieran, between those two for the final step on the rostrum.
Yeah, they've got the exact same tyres they enter that pit lane with, so tyre temperature shouldn't be too much of an issue. They'll be scrub tyres, so much easier to get back up to temperature. Well, that's going to promote Riley into the lead. Muscat now running in 2nd place with 90 seconds left on the clock. We got this lap and possibly one more with Dean Riley in the lead. So we're into crunch time now, as we see Corkery's now in 3rd then, Pinchbeck in 4th, and with stopping that late in the race for that splash and dash, you don't leave yourself a lot of room to really attack towards the end of the race if you needed to. And you know what, the top 4's really evenly spread out. What it's going to take to change these positions late on is a huge mistake from one of those 4, which they've already shown us how consistent and how good they are at this track. That's going to be a rarity. So Dean Riley here has only got about 12 kilometres to go, and he can crown himself the winner, but he's got to get there first.
Yes, indeed. And as they say, to finish first you must finish. And it has been a bit of a war of attrition. Florent Lacour, I think, has called it a day in the number 44 Aston Martin as we ride on board with Dean Riley through into the chase. And it looks like he's got Kirsten Abaya in the number 20 just up ahead. Yellow flags are out, and that is for the, looks to be the number 66 of Silver Pyramids. That's on the inside of the chase. But the penultimate, well, the last corner of the 57th and penultimate race lap, we go on to lap number 58. Dean Riley now starts his final 6.213 kilometres here at Mount Panorama here on World Pro Racing.
I did think he was going to slow down there and take the checkered flag as is, but he's on to the final lap now. He's just giving a little bit of a show of lights then to the car in front, just to let him know that he's there and he wants to come through as we now make our way onwards then towards Quarry Bend. But for Dean Riley, he's only got this lap to go, and this back marker he will not be happy with. It's the number 20 car of Kirsten Abea. Look at that, flashing the lights there. He wants through, and there you go. The message gets through to Abea. He wants through, and he gets through, does Dean Riley. Then upwards then we go through Griffin's Mount, then we go through Reed Park, and to be honest with you, for Dean Riley, he got that front row start, got pole position, didn't get a great start off the line, but if that's a case for anything, it's that it's not how you start, it's how you finish through these 2 hours here. And Dean Riley now making his way all the way through McPhillamy Park, now over through Skyline, through the Estes and through the Dipper one last time. Here we go through the Dipper, down into first gear, back up to second to reduce the wheel spin on exit. We now negotiate our way through these series of chicanes, down towards Forest's Elbow, downhill as you hit the apex here, use that to get the wheel spin under control. It's flat out now down Conrod Straight. He's got absolutely zero traffic ahead of him now as he makes his way onto the final couple of kilometres to go then. He makes his way down the long Conrod Straight on towards the chase then. It's been pretty much faultless from Dean Riley as he makes his way and winds down this 2 hours of Mount Panorama. He makes his way through the final couple of corners. No doubt he's the king of the mountain at peak performance, making his way through Murray's Corner for the final time, and towards the line he will go. Dean Riley wins the 2 hours of Mount Panorama. A truly faultless drive from the Mercedes driver. Sheldon Muscat comes across the line in second place. Really nice podium from the Lexus driver, and Coleman Corkery will round off the podium then. The Irishman grabs third place with Pinchbeck rounding off the top four. Alex, what a sensational race we had. Drama all the way throughout, a day-night cycle. What more could you have asked for?
The standout performance of the evening, move of the night, is going to go to Chris Bourne round the outside at the cutting on, of all people, Nat Thomas, who finished in 10th position. Boychev and Ressart rounds out the top 9. But King of the Mountain, top of the hill, top of the pops, it is Dean Riley from Sim Sports Solutions. What a race. And that really, as we wave goodbye to a land down under at Mount Panorama, as the nighttime really sees all those headlights in full prominence. What a race, Kieran McGinley.
Definitely, and the drivers have put on a good show here tonight. We started off with, I think it was 28 drivers took the start, 19 took the checkered flag, and that just shows you how tough this race is, even over 2 hours. There was a lot of elements thrown at the drivers here. 5 times race server speed, which of course, advances the clock 5 times faster than normal. So we had started in that midday heat. 34 degrees that track was when we started this race. At the checkered flag it's around about 17, so we've halved the temperature of the track then, and Muscat showing you need to stay alert even on your in lap after the race. And yeah, it's a great drive from Muscat as well. Second place for him, 3.2 seconds behind the eventual winner, and considering the battling he had to do throughout the race, I think that was a superb drive from him.
Yeah, very much the case. So, Dean Riley, Sheldon Muscat, and Coleman Corkery, your top three here at Mount Panorama. That was an interesting race, to be completely honest. Well, actually, let's go to our first interview. Funnily enough, our runner-up tonight from GT Omega RPM Esports, Sheldon Muscat. That was one hell of a race, Sheldon. You had to fight for second position, but things really came your way after Corkery and Pinchbeck pitted with a couple of moments to go.
Yeah, guys, good evening. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, that was a pretty intense race. As you can see, I finished the race just 3 seconds behind the leader. He was very quick, so well done to him, and well done to Corkery as well for getting the third place. Yeah, the race was pretty good. I did not have those major accidents at this track, because if you have one of those major accidents, you will surely be out of the podium contention. Try to keep it clean, and now I pushed a bit now at night, and the track is a totally different animal at night. So yeah, but I'm happy with the P2. Very happy.
Yeah, and also one of the other things, we don't normally see you in an Lexus. We normally see you in a Mercedes. What prompted the change is my question here, Sheldon.
Yeah, actually we're going to race in the RCA 12 hours next Sunday, and we took this car, the Lexus. It's pretty good here apparently, but it suffers a bit on flat spots. If you go into a corner and brake a lot, you will lock up easily and you will ruin the tires. So we have to be careful for that. Yeah, but it's a pretty good car for here. It's very stable. It's quick as well in a straight line. I hit like 283 kilometers per hour at Conrod. So yeah, I was flying on the straights.
Well, Sheldon, is there anyone else you'd like to thank after what was a great performance here at Mount Panorama?
Yeah, of course. I would like to thank the guys at Pro Racing for hosting these events. They're always perfect, like usual. I would also want to thank my team sponsors, GT Omega Racing, Gaming Malta, HyperX, and Pro Racing for these events.
Okay, Sheldon Muscat, our runner-up here at Mount Panorama. Congratulations. We'll see you next time, Sheldon, and enjoy the rest of your Friday night.
Cheers. See ya. Good night.
So, Kieran, I'll hand it over to you, as you now have our race winner from SimSport Solutions, the number one of Dean Riley.
I do indeed. Dean, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Dean, I mean, pretty much everything happened in that 2 hour. I think you proved that it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and everything in between. You just got to make sure you keep out there on track. I mean, talk us through that race.
Well, first few laps, I got a bad start. Really poor exits out of the corners. And then going into the last chicane, I got hit by the Audi, which he massive dive bomb. I tried to avoid, but he cost me quite a lot, to be fair. So I thought I'd just keep in there, keep steady pace, wait for people to drop out of the race and crash, and that unfortunately happened. Yeah, and I was pushing forward. I knew I had the pace. I know Harry Spears was quick, and that was the target, to get up with Harry. When I finally got up with Harry, I think I had a little bit more pace in him. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hit a back marker facing the wrong way when I was 40 or 50 seconds in the lead. So, yeah, it was a bit of a venture. So.
Yeah, you could say that for sure. I mean, we heard from Sheldon there that the track is a totally different beast in the night. The track temperature halved from the start of the race to the end. So how difficult was it to keep up with how often the track is changing?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the 5 times multiplier, and I knew the temperature was going to drastically drop off. So I was only doing the 1 tyre change. So I massively increased my tyres for the second pit stop, so they were really high when I come out. And towards the end of the race, they weren't too bad. I knew the track was obviously going to lose a bit of grip, which I was fully prepared for. So yeah, it wasn't anything unexpected. And to be fair, it wasn't too bad. I could just manage my way home, drop a little bit of pace off, and just get to the finish.
Well, Dean, congratulations on your win. The floor is yours for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to thank.
Just basically SimSport Solutions. Great racing community. really fast community, and yeah, so Sim Sport Racing and Sim Sport Solutions.
Well, congratulations, Dean, king of the mountain of that 2 hours at Mount Panorama. Go and enjoy your evening. Congratulations.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
I'll now hand back over to Alex, who I believe is with our third place driver, Coleman Corkery.
Yes, Coleman, firstly, yourself and Chris Pinchbeck left it rather close to the wire for the splash and dash with about 2 minutes to go, but to still get P3 at the end of what was a very, very difficult race, I think, for everyone considered. How are you feeling right now? Well, I don't know if we're actually if we've had some technical difficulties. A real shame with regards to that. But Kieran, a fantastic race here at Mount Panorama this evening. There's more to come here from World Pro Racing, isn't there?
There's no shortage of what's to come. I mean, you've got yourself at the Coventry Box next week in the USF 2000, the championship moving on to its third round. Had to get your plug in there at some point as well.
Thank you.
You're
Don't forget Chris Buxton. Don't forget Chris Buxton. Otherwise, he'll be a bit knocked about that one. But yeah, plenty of that happening. You know, the Italian job next week, next Tuesday. The HyperX Open Series. I'm really looking forward to seeing who becomes our first prize winners for that, because there's prizes courtesy of our good friends at HyperX for the top 3 German Fest in a couple of weeks' time. It's really showing signs of things to come. Karting championship due to come here on World Pro Racing. Things are looking ever brighter in 2021, aren't they?
They really, really are, and there's lots of racing for everybody, no matter what your ability level is, and all of that can, of course, be found at worldproracing.com. And no matter what your ability level, just have a check out. I mean, there's racing for everybody on multiple platforms. Well, of course, we've been on Assetto Corsa Competizione tonight, but we've also got R Factor 2 and GT Sport as well. So if that takes your fancy, head over to the website, and I'm sure you can find a new racing series for you.
Well, from myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Kieran McGinley, that is it from us tonight for Friday. Thank you very much, as always, to Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, and AMD, our sponsors. A big thank you to you all watching on the World Pro Racing feeds on Facebook, Live, YouTube, and Twitch, and also to our viewers over in Malta at TVM Sport, also at motorsport.tv and eSports Television. That's it from us at World Pro Racing for this week. We'll see you bright and early Tuesday next week for further action here on World Pro Racing. Good night for now.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.